cell phones so that we don't have any unwanted distractions. Our Father which art in heaven,
Our Father which art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come,
thy will be done in earth
thy will be done in earth
as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread,
Give us this day our daily bread,
and forgive us our debt,
and forgive us our debts,
as we forgive our debtors.
as we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation,
And lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
Thine is the kingdom,
For thine is the kingdom,
and the power,
and the power,
and the glory,
and the glory,
forever.
forever.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord,
For he is good.
for he is good,
For his mercy endureth forever.
for his mercy endures forever.
Praise the Lord God of Israel.
Praise the Lord God of Israel,
For he is good.
for he is good,
For his mercy endureth forever.
for his mercy endures forever.
Lord of lords,
Lord of lords,
King of kings,
King of kings,
the mighty one of Jacob,
the mighty one of Jacob,
and there is no other.
and there is no other.
In Jesus' mighty name we pray.
In Jesus' mighty name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Today's scripture reading comes from Psalms 41, verses 1 through 4. Psalm 41, verses 1 through 4. Blessed is he that considereth the poor. The Lord will deliver him in time of trouble. The Lord will preserve him and keep him alive, and he shall be blessed upon the earth. And thou wilt not deliver him until the will of his enemies. The Lord will strengthen him upon the bed of languishing. Thou wilt make all his bed in his sickness. I said, Lord, be merciful unto me, heal my soul, for I have sinned against thee. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading, hearing, and doing of his word. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, y'all. Praise the Most High. Praise God of our forefathers. God, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. It's always a blessing to be here. Everybody watching online, peace to you. Everybody here, peace to you. All right? Let's not forsake the assembly of ourselves, right? No Sabbath disclaimer because I'm going to cover the Sabbath in the lesson. I will go over the multiple response strategies. All right? So, this is an oldie but goodie, but I always want to make sure that you guys understand how I care about interacting with you and I care about your understanding. All right? I don't want anybody to be done on my watch. All right? So, if you guys understand the concept, what do you do? Thumbs up. Hey, I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're reading. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, or this guy's reading, what do you do? All right, Caleb, I see you back there, little man. Right on. And if you kind of understand, what do you do? Thumb to the side with a little wiggle, like, I kind of get it, but help me out. All right? All right, that being said, today's lesson is called the psychosis from the curses and the cure. And this lesson was actually sparked by, well, okay, there's a lot of race stuff going on nowadays, right? I won't even get into why, we all know why, okay? But I have a problem with people trying to make commentary about our condition, and they're trying to impute or accuse, and they're not trying to understand. They're not trying to help. They're not looking for solutions. They're just looking to justify their position, all right? So when other nations tell us what we need to do, if they have not studied or gone in depth to understand truly what's going on in the circumstances, no, I refuse to allow that conversation to happen, all right? So this right here is a qualifier. It is so we can have the facts. It is not to be emotional. It is not to be angry at anybody. It is so we have the facts, pure, unadulterated facts, not only inside the Bible, but outside the Bible, all right? So this lesson right here is to show us two purposes. First purpose is to actually be able to have a conversation with someone who tells you there's no such thing as systemic racism, all right? We both, all of us in this room know that that's a farce. There is a such thing as systemic racism. Secondly, it's so us as Israel will have a clear a clear understanding of what this construct, I call this a construct. The system is a construct. What this construct is for, how this construct views us, and what we need to do inside this construct. All right? I'm trying to help to cure the disappointment that we have that we're still not being perceived as being human beings. Because that's the struggle. The struggle is for us to be perceived as, number one, human beings, and number two, not property. All right? Without further ado, and be flattered, let's get into the lesson. The psychosis from the curses and the cure. Let me set the tone. Proverbs 3, verse 33. Proverbs 3, verse 33. And again, after this lesson, I don't want y'all in the streets trying to riot and be mad and nothing like that. I want you to be able to have an unemotional dialogue with someone to qualify them. Are they trying to really find out what's going on with Israel, or are they just trying to accuse and further the prejudices? That's what this is for. All right? Proverbs 3, 33. Go ahead, brother. Set the mood, please.
The curse of the Lord is in the house of the wicked, but he blesseth the habitation of the just.
That's what we're talking about. The curses and the blessing. This is what fell on Israel. The curses and the blessing. Now, 3,425 years ago, what did the God of Israel say that our mindset would be like? Let's go to Deuteronomy 28. We're going to spend a lot of time in Deuteronomy 28. And again, this is only the first lesson I've ever done on the curses. I figured there was a lot of people that actually was handling the subject of the curses better than me. I'm actually focusing on different things, but this kind of falls into my spirit. I'm trying to help figure out, I'm trying to help combat the mindset we have so we can all be better. Deuteronomy 28. What did the God of Israel say that our mindset would become? Go ahead, sir.
The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart.
Please read that again, sir.
The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart.
Now, you guys don't have this handout. Trav, I need you to read the definition of madness. Tell me where the source came from and tell me what it is. The Lord said we're going to be smitten with madness in our mind. What's madness, sir?
Merriam-Webster, dictionary.com. Definition of madness: the quality or state of being mad, such as a state of several mental illness. A state of severe mental illness.
Stop. A state of severe mental illness is madness. The Lord said he's going to smite us with madness. Y'all ain't hearing it. Go ahead, bro.
Behavior or thinking that is very foolish or dangerous. Extreme folly, an idea that is pure or sheer madness. Intense anger.
Does that not sound like what we deal with as a people on a daily basis? Y'all with me on that? I guess everybody in here has everything under control mentally, huh? Now, I propose that we are dealing with a psychosis as a result of the curses. Trav, can you please read the definition of psychosis and tell them where that source came from?
Source is the Mental Health America.net. Psychosis.
Come on.
Psychosis is a general term to describe a set of symptoms of mental illnesses that result in strange or bizarre thinking, perceptions, sight, sound, behaviors, and emotions.
Stop. We're talking bizarre thinking, bizarre perceptions. In other words, what you perceive, what we perceive, behaviors and emotions. That's a psychosis. The Lord said we're going to be stricken with madness. And as a result of the madness, we have a psychosis as a people. Go ahead, sir.
Psychosis is a brain-based condition that is made better or worse by environmental factors.
Stop. Psychosis is made either better or worse by environmental factors. In other words, stuff that's out, that the environment that you live in, that is what is conducive to the psychosis either being cured or becoming worse. Y'all with me on that? Go ahead, sir.
Like drug use and stress.
Stress. A psychosis can be made worse by stress. Okay? Let's go back to the Bible. Deuteronomy 28. What I say is we have a generational trauma-based psychosis. We have a generational trauma-based psychosis because of what we've been doing. Deuteronomy 28, we're going to dance with it. Give me 15 through 20 and we're going to dance. Go ahead, bro.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments, all his commandments,
come on,
and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Stop. What does overtake mean? That's not rhetorical. I'm asking the question. What does rhetorical mean?
Take over.
Thank you. Take over. So that means if you're trying to run from it, you can't run from it. It's going to be in your crib, right? It's going to tackle you on the streets, right? Kick you in your ribs, right? That's what we're dealing with. Go ahead, sir.
16.
Come on.
Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep.
Come on.
Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou settest thine hand for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me.
Do you understand the Lord says cursing and vexation? That's part of the psychosis. That's part of madness. Our environment is stressful. It makes it worse. Go ahead, so skip down to verse 25. 25.
The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth.
Stop. What does remove mean? Take it away. So the curses are going to take over, track you down, and tackle you, and you're going to be removed or taken away from where your home is. You're going to be in unfamiliar territory, stressful unfamiliar territory. Go ahead, sir.
26.
Come on.
And thy carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall crave them away.
Stop. Do people that are lynched get proper burials? Do slaves get proper burials? Do birds like strange fruit? Strange fruit is a song that they made about us. I mean, who was it? Billie Holiday. Thank you. That Billie Holiday made about us hanging from trees in the south. And it says that our carcasses shall be meat for the fowls of the air. Y'all ain't hearing me. That's stressful. That can cause a psychosis. Go ahead, sir.
28. The Lord shall smite thee with madness, and blindness, and astonishment of heart.
Come on.
And thou shalt grope at noondays, as the blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee.
Does that sound stressful? Does that sound like a condition that will cause some sort of mental illness or state of being intensely angry? 32. Skip down to 32. Go ahead, bro.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
Give me your mamas. Go ahead.
And thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand.
If someone took your kids away from you and you couldn't do anything about it, how would that make you feel? That would make you angry. That would make you violent, right? And imagine if no one was there to console you for that. And then imagine a day later or whatever, you're in some strange land picking cotton in the hot sun for about 14 hours a day. Stressful conditions. That can cause a psychosis. Y'all hearing me on this? Go ahead, sir.
33.
Come on.
The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
Come on.
So that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see.
Please read that again, sir.
So that thou shalt be mad for thy sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see.
The effects of the curses has caused complex post-traumatic stress disorder. That's what the curses have done. That is what we're dealing with. Now, can you please read the Recognizing Complex Trauma handout? It's a real thing called complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Go ahead, sir.
This source.
Yes.
Okay, the source of this is psychologytoday.com. Recognizing complex trauma. Treating trauma is a task most therapists can expect to undertake in their careers. In today's social and political climate, in which soldiers are continually being deployed to war zones, and the recent recession has been linked to an increase in child abuse, we can anticipate that many cases of complex trauma are sure to arise. Complex trauma is described by psychologist and trauma expert Dr. Christine Cortos as a type of trauma that occurs repeatedly and cumulatively, usually over a period of time within specific relationships and contexts.
Stop. The problem is caused by being abused over a long time frame types of relationships. Let's see what type of relationships we're talking about. Interpersonal relationships. Go ahead, sir.
Examples include severe child abuse, domestic abuse, or multiple military deployments into dangerous locales.
I'm going to go ahead, sir.
In Dr. Cortos' article, Understanding Complex Trauma, Complex Reactions, and Treatment Approaches, she summarizes complex traumatic events and experiences as stressors that are, number one, repetitive, prolonged, or cumulative.
Stop. Repetitive, prolonged, and cumulative. Stressors. Environmental stressors that causes a mindset that is divergent. In other words, things that happen to you over an extended period of time, over and over again, will cause mental disorders. And what he's going to read is it actually can be carried down to your children genetically. Just so we're clear. Go ahead, sir.
Number two,
Come on.
most often interpersonal, involving direct harm, exploitation, and maltreatment.
Wait, direct harm, exploitation, and maltreatment? That causes that? Direct harm, maltreatment, and exploitation causes complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Y'all understand what we're talking about right now? Go ahead, sir.
Including neglect, abandonment, antipathy by primary caregivers or other ostensibly responsible adults, and number three, often occur at developmentally vulnerable times in the victim's life, especially in early childhood or adolescence, but can also occur later in life and in conditions of vulnerability associated with disability, disempowerment, dependency, age, infirmity, and so on.
All those things that he just read describe us as a people not having a voice, being historically disenfranchised, being trivialized, being marginalized. Go ahead, sir.
On September 24th, I will host the CE webinar, Complex Forms of Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder, with Dr. Cortos in her article, Complex Trauma, Complex Reactions, Assessment and Treatment, I believe that is?
Yeah.
She lists symptoms of complex PTSD as including difficulty regulating affective impulses such as anger and self-destructiveness, dissociative episodes.
Please read that again, sir. Louder. I think they need to hear what you're telling them.
Okay. Starting here. Okay. Including the difficulty.
Stop. These are the symptoms. These are, you can tell when someone has complex post-traumatic stress disorder. These are the symptoms. Go ahead, sir.
She lists symptoms of complex PTSD as including difficulty regulating affective impulses such as anger and self-destructiveness, dissociative episodes, a chronic sense of guilt or responsibility, difficulty trusting people or feeling intimate.
Stop. Does that not sound like stuff that we go through? Being angry, having problems dealing with each other. Now, this is in the Bible. I'm just showing you outside of the Bible, clear empirical evidence of the Bible's validity, talking about his people. Go ahead, sir.
Hopelessness.
Come on.
Or despair, and other somatic or medical problems. Individuals who have been traumatized, incidents of trauma, whether they occurred in a childhood home, a war zone, or a POW cell, can incite guilt in those impacted. Traumatized individuals may experience an altered self-perception.
Stop. Oh, wow. People that are experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, has an altered self-perception. In other words, we see ourselves different. We see ourselves from the perspective of the people that are traumatizing us. W.E.B. Du Bois said this. He wrote about it in this book called The Souls of Black Folk. He calls it a double consciousness, where you are viewing yourself in the eyes of your oppressor. That's what we're going through. Go ahead, sir.
Traumatized individuals may experience an altered self-perception in which they suffer with feelings of intense shame. They may experience severe guilt, believing it is somehow their fault that certain terrorizing events took place.
So when a person tells you, hey, slavery is over, pick yourself up, do better, it's easy for a person inside of an air-conditioned house to tell you that it's not hot outside, unless they've gone through the facts. The facts are we've suffered a whole lot at the hands of all nations. I'm not just going to pick on Gentiles. I'm saying all nations. But it's because of what we did not do. But I'm just showing you, as a people, we have a disorder. We need to be able to literally, verbally explain this, unemotionally. Go ahead, sir.
One painful identification people make when they are victims of abuse occurs when they internalize their aggressor.
What?
When they internalize their aggressor.
This is the double consciousness. Go ahead, sir.
In other words, they may start to identify with the person who hurt them the most.
Stop. We start to identify with the persons or persons that hurt us the most. So in other words, when this construct tells us about ourselves and we start perpetuating the lie that it tells us, that's a double consciousness. That is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Are y'all following me? Go ahead, sir.
Sometimes feeling protected or taking on their destructive point of view toward themselves.
Wait, taking on their destructive point of view on myself. Go ahead, sir.
I often discuss the concept of the critical inner voice, a term my father, Robert Firestone, PhD, and I used to describe a negative self-perception we carry with us in our mind.
A negative self-perception that we carry in our own minds. In other words, we take what someone has said about us, we put it in our minds. Now it's being told to us by us in our voice, in our minds. Go ahead, sir.
All of us possess the inner critic.
Some of us only possess that.
All of us possess the inner critic.
Come on.
But those of us who are traumatized may experience this voice as a deeply destructive and terrifying enemy whose attacks on us can feel crippling and constant and can lead to even life-threatening self-destructive behavior.
Self-destructive behavior. If Israel don't have some of the most self-destructive behavior on this planet, I don't know who does. Go ahead, sir.
When a person feels hopeless or isolated.
Wait, stop. When a person feels what?
Hopeless or isolated.
Come on.
In their suffering or finds it difficult to trust easily, he or she can become further victimized by the critical inner voice. In turn, they may fail to have compassion for themselves and make choices that repeat destructive patterns of their past.
Stop. If I don't have compassion for myself, then it would be much easier for me to shoot someone who looks just like me, right? Or disrespect someone who looks like me because of what I've been told about myself, that I believe that I didn't create. I want y'all to understand this perception that we are perpetuating. We did not create that. Go ahead, sir.
For instance,
Come on.
an abused child may wind up in an abusive relationship as an adult.
That's it. So that's what I'm saying. We're dealing with, as a people, complex post-traumatic stress disorder caused by the curses. We're in a construct that has created an ideology, right? That has created a mythos and told us about the mythos, and now we believe it. But this is all because of the curses. This is all because of the curses. Now let's go back to the book, Deuteronomy 28. So far, you guys understand this is not flying over your heads, I hope. Deuteronomy 28, 36. We're going 36 through 37. Deuteronomy 28. I got you, brother. Deuteronomy 28, 36 through 37. Go ahead, sir.
The Lord shall bring thee, and thy king which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all the nations.
Some nations.
And all the nations whither the Lord shall lead thee.
Please read that again, sir. 37.
And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all the nations whither the Lord shall lead thee.
Do you guys know that a proverb is a story? We shall become a story. And a byword is a name. I'm going to deal with the most famous name after I deal with the story that follows us. But first, I got to go to who created this story. Okay? Now, I'm going to explain the difference between race and heritage groups. There is no such thing as the term race. Race does not exist. God deals with heritage groups. He deals with bloodlines. Races is something that Europeans created. And I'm going to prove it. Let's go to Britannica. I'm going to show you where the race stuff came from. It came from Aristotle and Plato. And mind you, Aristotle was Alexander the Great's mentor. He was his teacher. Okay? This is what is called the great chain of being. Go ahead, sir. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, sorry. Building the myth of black inferiority.
Please read that again, sir.
Building the myth of black inferiority.
The myth of black inferiority. The story, the proverb that will follow you and I until the Lord comes back or we die. This is from the Bible. It's a proverb, a story. Tell them where it came from, brother.
This is coming from
This is Britannica.
Britannica.com.
Yes, sir.
A number of 18th century political and intellectual leaders began publicly to assert that Africans were naturally inferior.
Stop. Go ahead.
And that they were indeed best suited for slavery.
Stop. Y'all understand what we're reading right now? You understand the story that's being told about us, but not by us. The Lord said we will become a proverb. A proverb is a story. This is the story. I'm showing you where the story came from. So when someone tries to tell you there's no such thing as systemic racism, you can literally say, well, what about, how do you explain the great chain of being thing? Tell them about the great chain of being, sir.
A few intellectuals revived an older image of all living things, the scala naturae, Latin scale of nature, or great chain of being, to demonstrate that nature or God had made men unequal.
Stop. What did God do according to these Europeans? What did Aristotle and Plato tell the world God did? Please read that again, sir.
To demonstrate that nature or God had made men unequal.
Stop. The story is that God has made people unequal. That is the story. Now let's see what people in particular this story surrounds. Go ahead, sir.
This ancient hierarchical paradigm, encompassing all living creatures, starting with the simplest organisms and reaching to humans, angels, and ultimately to God.
So what he's saying is it's a hierarchical structure. God is at the top, then there's angels underneath him, then it's human beings, and then it's everything else, including bugs. And the further away from God you are, the more inferior you are. And guess who's at the bottom of the list in the great chain of being as far as race is concerned? I don't think you got time to guess. Go ahead, sir.
Became for the advocates of slavery.
Good, for the advocates of what?
Advocates of slavery.
So this was used to justify slavery. This great chain of being, this hierarchical structure was used to justify slavery. I don't think y'all heard it. Go ahead, sir.
A perfect reflection of the realities of inequality that they had created. The physical differences of blacks and Indians became the symbols or markers of their status. It was during these times that the term race became widely used to denote the ranking and inequality of these people.
Stop. During this time frame, the term race was created based upon the hierarchical structure, and we're naturally the most inferior ones on that great chain of being. Race is a confabulation. In other words, it's a farce, it is false, it does not exist, and when someone tries to bring race to you, you tell them race is not real. That is something that Europeans created. God is heritage groups. It is heritage groups. Take the power of being able to classify you as a race away. Race doesn't exist. Don't fall for it. Go ahead, sir.
In other words, their placement on the chain of being. Legitimizing the racial worldview, enlightenment philosophers and systematists.
Come on.
The development of the idea and ideology of race coincided with the rise of science in American and European cultures.
Stop. Race comes from European and American culture. Of course, America is nothing but an offshoot of England, European. I'm showing you again, race is a creation of Europeans. It doesn't exist. It's not real. Don't fall for it. Take the power away from them. Go ahead, sir.
Much of the inspiration for the growth of science has been credited to the period known as the Enlightenment that spans most of the 18th century. Many early Enlightenment writers believed in the power of education and fostered very liberal ideas about the potentiality of all peoples, even savages, for human progress.
Wait, even who?
Even savages.
Savages. Even savages can attain to be a human being one day. I'm going to get to that in a moment. Go ahead, sir.
Yet, later in the century, some of the earliest assertions about the natural inferiority of Africans.
Stop. Let that soak in. Natural inferiority. The great chain of being. God made some men to be unequal, and he made black people to be the lowest and most unequal. That is the concept of race. Whenever someone brings up race, that is what they're saying. They may not know that, but that's what they're saying. Because the progenitors of that framework, that thought, that's what they were saying. Go ahead, sir.
Yet, later in the century, some of the earliest assertions about the natural inferiority of Africans were published. Major proponents of the ideology of race inequality were the German philosopher Immanuel Kant, the French philosopher Voltaire, the Scottish philosopher and historian David Hume, and the influential American political philosopher Thomas Jefferson.
Stop. Wait, Thomas Jefferson? Wait, Thomas Jefferson believed in this great chain of being and the natural inferiority of black people? He was president, you know. He was the architect of the Constitution, you know. Okay? Y'all understand what we're dealing with right now. Don't get it twisted. When a person perceives you as not being a human being, or should I say naturally inferior, this is why. I just want you to understand that so you don't be heartbroken every time somebody treats you bad. Understand what the prevailing thought is. Go ahead, sir.
These writers express negative opinions about Africans and other primitives based on purely subjective impressions or materials gained from secondary sources.
Stop. So their concept of how we function, or should I say, the perception of all the quote-unquote races, didn't come from them directly interacting with you and I. It came from people's writings that they read or people's stories that they told them. So you got a guy sitting in his laboratory creating race based on some stuff he heard. That's not the scientific method. The scientific method is you're supposed to be able to come with a hypothesis, demonstrate it, and re-demonstrate it, not go on hearsay. Race is based on hearsay in the 1700s. Y'all with me on that? Is that powerful or what? Go ahead, sir.
Secondary sources such as travelers, missionaries, and explorers. These philosophers expressed the common attitudes of this period.
The common attitudes of this period, by the way, toward us. Go ahead.
Most also had investments in the slave trade.
Wait. So you're telling me that it's in their best interest to classify me as not being human or inferior because they have investments in the slave trade? Go ahead, sir.
Although many learned men were involved in this enterprise, it was the classifications developed by the Swedish botanist Carolinus Linnaeus.
Now, let me stop you right there. So, Carolinus Linnaeus and Johann Blumenbach, they're the ones that took the great chain of being, and then they came with a new version of it. Carolinus Linnaeus is the first person to kind of adapt that and alter it. He came with 4 types of races. Johann Friedrich Blumenbach, he came with 5. And Johann, he based his entire assumption on skull shapes. Skull shapes are phrenology. So when you're watching Django, and you see that Leonardo DiCaprio pull a skull off on the table and start talking about how inferior we are based on our skull, that is Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. Y'all feel me on that? Go ahead, sir.
And the German physiologist Johann Friedrich Blumenbach that provided the models and terms for modern racial classifications.
Come on.
Scientific classifications of race. In publications issued from 1735 to 1759, Linnaeus classified all the then known animal forms. He included humans with the primates and established the use of both genus and species terms for identification of all animals. For the human species, he introduced the still current scientific name Homo sapiens.
So the still current name of that classification of human beings as Homo sapiens came from Carolinus Linnaeus. That's enough with that. Now let's get Carolinus Linnaeus' own words describing the hierarchical structure of race. Go to the next one. Race does not exist resist and do not tolerate anyone trying to tell you there's a such thing called race. There's not. It's heritage groups. Point blank, period. No such thing as race. Go ahead, sir.
A short history of the race concept.
This is on the website. You can Google him. Tell him his name.
Okay,
Then
then
you can Google him. He pops right up.
Michael Udell, PhD,
Hey,
MPH.
you want to know his pedigree? Let's keep it one double with him. If you want to know his pedigree and why you should pay attention to him, just read to where you find the first period. Just read till you find the first period. This is his pedigree.
Michael Udell is an assistant professor in the Department of Community Health and Prevention at the Drexel University School of Public Health.
Come on.
Udell received his PhD in socio-medical sciences from Columbia University
Columbia University is a very good school. He has a doctorate from there. Go ahead, sir.
and MPH from the Mailman School of Public Health of Columbia University and MPhil from the City University of New York in 20th century U.S. history, and a BA from Tufts University. Dr. Udell has also held the positions of researcher.
All right, I think we're good. He's a trusted source. All right? He studied history. He studied medicine. Here's what he's going to tell us about race, and he's going to tell us what Johann Blumenbach and Carolinus Linnaeus said concerning us from second-hand accounts, not first-hand accounts. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, a short history of the race concept. At the dawn of the 21st century, the idea of race, the belief that the peoples of the world can be organized into biologically distinctive groups, each with their own physical and social and intellectual characteristics.
Stop. How you look automatically dictates your brain functionality, your income, and how you respond emotionally. Just your skin color and your features, your phenotype, dictates all this stuff to the world. That's false. Go ahead, sir.
Is understood by most natural and social scientists to be an unsound concept.
So race is an unsound concept. Point blank. Don't believe me. Believe the dude who got his doctorate from Columbia. Don't let nobody come with race on you like that. Go ahead, sir.
The way scientists think about race today, after all, is different than it was in the wake of the civil rights movement when some promoted black genetic inferiority.
Black genetic what?
Inferiority.
Come on.
As an argument against egalitarian social and economic policy.
Come on.
And certainly different than 1 or 2 centuries ago as scientific justifications for slavery.
Wait, scientific what?
Justifications for slavery.
Scientific justification for slavery. Y'all not hearing me. Race is the concept of race was used to scientifically justify slavery. Y'all not hearing me. Do you understand the type of thought and think tank that we have going against us to place this story? Or should I say, the story that the Lord said was going to happen concerning us if we didn't obey Him into the entire world? Y'all don't understand what we're dealing with. I want y'all to understand what we're dealing with. It's not a game. Go ahead, sir.
And later, Jim Crow were articulated. In other words, diversity is an idea with a measurable past, identifiable present, and uncertain future. These changes are influenced by a range of variables including geography, politics, culture, science, and economics.
Flip the black part 2 of that story, please. This is Carolus Linnaeus' words concerning us and the hierarchical structure and why he placed us in the order that he did. Go ahead, sir.
The Swedish botanist and culturalist Carolinus Linnaeus also made lasting contributions to the race concept at this time. Linnaeus' natural system, which became the basis for the classification of all species, divided humanity into 4 groups: Americanus, Asiaticus, Africanus, and European.
So we know those groups. We don't have to speak Latin to know what we're talking about. Go ahead, sir.
Europeus. To these groups, he ascribed typological and physical and behavioral characteristics.
Behavioral characteristics based on just how we look. Behavioral characteristics. Go ahead, sir.
Americanus were reddish, choleric,
These are Indians. Go ahead, sir.
and erect, hair black, wide nostrils, obstinate, married, free, regulated by customs.
So Indians are regulated by customs and they're stubborn. And Go ahead, sir.
Asiatics
So Asian people, go ahead.
were melancholy,
So they're melancholy, go ahead.
stiff, hair black, dark eyes, severe, haughty, avaricious.
That means greedy. So Asian person is naturally greedy because they're Asian and that's what they look like. Like, you guys understand what we're reading right now?
Yeah.
He's attributing thoughts and emotions to us just based on skin color and our features. This is ridiculous. Go ahead, sir.
And ruled by opinions.
Ruled by opinions.
Africanus
Uh-oh, here we go.
were black, phlegmatic, hair black, frizzled, nose black, lips tumid.
Stop. Tumid means swollen. Distorted. Tumid, the word tumid means swollen and distorted. Go ahead, sir.
Women without shame.
Wait, whoa. Women without what?
Without shame.
Go ahead.
They lactate profusely.
Stop. Now, sisters, he said you are without shame and you lactate profusely. And it's not like he ever had a conversation or hung out. I'm going to show you, stop. I'm going to show you where he got black women are without shame and lactate profusely. I found this source. I left it out of the other one, but I got to show y'all.
Slave trade brought many advantages to Western society.
You got to read that.
What you put on that page. Top history books, summaries of key insights, the disturbing history of enslaved mothers forced to breastfeed white babies.
Please read that copy. I don't think you understand it.
The disturbing history of enslaved mothers forced to breastfeed white babies in the 1600s.
Please read, sir. I ain't going to say that. I'm just letting read. I ain't going to look at it.
That's the picture. No, most of you can see that, but that's a picture given there. Slave trade brought many advantages to Western societies. The main duty of a slave was to work on plantations, increasing productivity. Slaves often worked long, tedious hours in the sun with no pay or a reward for their hard labor. Their presence made traders and plantation owners more productive and made their living conditions very harsh. After a while, the duties of slaves extended to domestic work, and female slaves became of high value.
Wait, female slaves, what now?
So female slaves became of high value.
I said I want to look at them. Go ahead, brother.
In addition to their plantation duties, many female slaves were taken into the homes of their masters to serve their mistresses, cook, clean, and wash for them. If a mistress had too many children, the domestic worker was made to help in caring for the child. After a while, female slaves were made to take the place of low-class women paid to breastfeed babies, a practice known as wet nursing.
Wait, hold on. So you're telling me I'm inferior. You're telling me I'm not a human being, but you're also telling me that you're going to breastfeed your children. Y'all don't understand what's going on, do you? Y'all hear what's going on? Go ahead, brother. Show that picture. Y'all ain't hearing me. You guys are not hearing me.
Hear you.
Y'all ain't hearing me. Go ahead, brother.
The practice was an excuse for many white mothers to avoid breastfeeding with hopes of maintaining their stature and avoiding the messy part of motherhood.
Come on.
The act was perceived as self-demeaning, and women who received breastfeeding were often thought of as uncultured, poor, and often shunned. The practice became very popular when doctors of the time did all they could to prove that breastfeeding was an unhealthy act for women.
Stop. Doctors back then were telling the women back then it is unhealthy for you to breastfeed your own child. Y'all not understanding. When Carolinius when he ran across the stories or first-hand accounts maybe that he's seen of slave women, that's what he found. That's where the concept of lactating profusely came from. This practice right here. Go ahead, sir.
It is believed that doctors were paid huge sums of money to write such reports.
Come on.
The children of slaves grew healthy, while many black females lost their children to ill health.
Come on.
This made many Westerners force slave mothers.
Wait, it did what?
This made many Westerners force.
No, ask. Did they ask them to do it?
No. This made many Westerners force slave mothers to breastfeed their white children so that they could develop better and survive the early months of childhood.
Look at that. Y'all not hearing me. You guys show that picture. Finish that off, please.
Once a slave mother had a child, she was quickly assigned to a white mistress and forced to breastfeed her white baby instead of her own.
Can you please read that louder?
Once a slave mother had a child, she was quickly assigned to a white mistress and forced to breastfeed her white baby instead of her own.
Would that cause a psychosis?
Yeah.
Do y'all understand what we're dealing with? There's a psychosis associated with the curses. Again, I want you to have an unemotional conversation with someone to classify. Do they really want to know? Are they trying to help, or are they trying to impute? Continue, sir.
Young and healthy slave women were also forced to breastfeed white babies after doctors discovered that the continuous sucking of a sexually active female breast could result in lactation.
That is where Carolina's Linnaeus came with that. The slave trade, the practice in the slave trade of wet nursing is where he based his assumption that black women are without shame and lactate profusely because of that practice. Now let's get back to his description. So he's described all of the three nations. Now let's see how he describes his European counterparts. Again, race doesn't exist. Don't fall for it. It's heritage proof. But I'm showing you the story that follows us through history, because the Lord said if we don't listen to him, we will become a story. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Africanus were black, phlegmatic, hair black, frizzled, nose flat, lip tumid, women without shame. They lactate profusely, crafty, indolent, negligent, governed by caprice.
I'll be negligent, but you want me to breastfeed your kid.
Right.
Go ahead.
Finally, Europeans.
Okay.
Europeans
We're finally here. Europeans. Let's see what he says.
were white, sanguine, muscular, eyes blue, gentle, inventive. Governed by laws.
Governed by laws. Inventive. Wonderful. Happy. Everything's great. White picket fence. Black people. Projects. Gunshots. Hey, man. Go ahead, bro.
Towards the end of the 18th century, German scientist Johann Blumenbach constructed a racial classification that built upon Linnaeus's work.
So he took Linnaeus's work and he added a fifth one to it, and he based it upon the shapes of skulls that he studied. He studied about, I want to say, 6,000 or 600,000 skulls, and he came to the conclusion that the Caucasian skull was the most beautiful skull that he had seen. Therefore, he placed that skull at the top of the hierarchy. All of this is based on Plato and Aristotle. All of this is based on Plato and Aristotle's work, the great chain of being. That's where race originated. And then it came to Carolina's Linnaeus, and then it came to Johann Blumenbach, and that's how you have the modern race structure. Again, I'm showing you the story, and I'm showing you the confabulation of race. Race doesn't exist. Do not allow people to classify you as a black race. I'm a heritage group. I'm an Israelite. That's what we deal with. All right? Now, I'm going to show you how do you sell race. How do you sell this story? How do you sell that black people are crafty, indulgent, this is swollen? How do you sell that? Propaganda. Propaganda. I'm going to show you one of the first movies ever shown in the United States called The Birth of a Nation. And no, I did not see the Black Klansman before I did this lesson. I saw the Black Klansman after I did this lesson. So I know the Lord was giving me this lesson. Please talk about The Birth of a Nation, brother.
The Birth of a Nation, originally called the Klansman.
Stop. Originally called the Klansman. Go ahead.
is a 1915 American silent epic drama film directed and produced by D.W.
You
Griffith.
might be tired, man. You tired.
No, absolutely not.
Come on.
Starring Lillian Gish. The screenplay is adapted from the novel and play The Klansman.
Stop. The movie comes from a play and a novel called The Klansman. This is 1915. This is propaganda. How do you sell the story? How do you sell the story that Deuteronomy 28 talks about? How do you sell it? I'm showing you how they sold the story to not only the world, but us, to where we believe the story. Go ahead, sir.
Both by Thomas Dixon Jr. as well as Dixon's novel, The Leopard Spots. Griffith co-wrote the screenplay with Frankie Woods and co-produced the film with Harry Aiken. It was released on February 8, 1915.
Come on.
The film is 3 hours long.
How long?
3 hours long.
Come on.
And was originally presented in 2 parts separated by an intermission. It was the first 12-reel film in the United States.
First 12-reel film in the United States, shown in the White House, by the way. The President and the Congress and the Supreme Court, the President and the Congress watched that movie in the White House. Go ahead, sir.
The film chronicles the relationship of 2 families in the American Civil War and Reconstruction era over the course of several years.
Come on.
The pro-Union Northern Stonemen's and the pro-Confederacy Southern Cameroons. The assassination of Abraham Lincoln by John Wilkes Booth is dramatized. The film was a commercial success, though it was highly controversial for its portrayal of black men, many played by white actors in blackface.
Stop. Y'all ain't hear that. Y'all was zoning out. This movie has black people being portrayed by white people in blackface. No black people are in this movie. There are white people with blackface talking about how we act, written by a dude from a book called The Klansman. This is propaganda. It was a huge commercial success. Go ahead, sir.
As an unintelligent and sexually aggressive towards white women.
Wait, hold on. Rewind that real quick. Give me white men in blackface real quick, just so you can understand what we're talking about.
The film was a commercial success, though it was highly controversial for its portrayal of black men, many played by white actors in blackface, as unintelligent and sexually aggressive towards white women, and the portrayal of the Ku Klux Klan as a heroic force.
Stop. So, black men who are being portrayed by white men in blackface are unintelligent and sexually aggressive towards white women. And on the flip side of that, the Klan is the heroic force in this movie. Y'all not understanding about the story. When the Lord says, I'm going to do you, he really has sewn up. Okay? This story is following us wherever we go in the world. Deuteronomy 28 says a story, a proverb. This is the proverb. I'm showing you a proverb in action, outside, in reality, so to speak. So when you want to have a conversation with someone about the book, if you want to talk to Israel about it, that's cool. Someone who's telling you there's no such thing as systemic racism, ask them what's cracking with the birth of the nation real quick. Go ahead, bro.
There were widespread black protests against the birth of a nation, such as in Boston, while thousands of white Bostonians flocked to see the film. The NAACP spearheaded an unsuccessful campaign to ban the film.
So the NAACP was like, this is garbage. Why are you playing this? And it didn't work. Nobody listened. Because they believed the story, the scientific, first the science, then the propaganda, selling the story. Go ahead, sir.
Griffith's indignation at efforts to censor or ban the film motivated him to produce Intolerance the following year. The film's release is also credited as being one of the events that inspired the reformation of the Ku Klux Klan.
Stop, read that part again. I don't think the people in the crowd is hearing that. Because of this movie, what happened, sir?
The film's release also credited as being one of the events that inspired the reformation of the Ku Klux Klan in 1950.
Stop. Because of this movie and the propaganda, this inspired the Ku Klux Klan to come back from the dead. This movie resurrected the Klan. Y'all ain't hearing me. Go ahead, sir.
The Birth of a Nation was the first American motion picture to be screened inside the White House, viewed there by President Woodrow Wilson. Griffith's innovative techniques and storytelling power have made the Birth of a Nation one of the landmarks of film history. In 1992, the Library of Congress deemed the film culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
The Library of Congress said this is a movie that needs to be saved for future generations. Y'all ain't hearing me. Go to Reconstruction. Go to part 2. Are you guys understanding clearly the story that follows us? Are you understanding how the story was sold to the whole world through science and propaganda? And the story is we're naturally inferior based on the great chain of being from Aristotle and Plato. God made some men unequal, and that is the story. That is the proverb. 2, give me Reconstruction.
Reconstruction.
This is the premise of the movie. Go ahead.
Stoneman and his protege, Silas Lynch, a mulatto, exhibiting psychopathic tendencies.
Stop. So we got a half black dude in there that is exhibiting psychopathic tendencies. We got a black psychopath, a half black psychopath, but a black psychopath nonetheless, as one of the lead protagonists in the movie. Y'all not hearing me? Go ahead, sir.
Head to South Carolina to observe the implementation of Reconstruction policies firsthand. During the election in which Lynch is elected lieutenant governor, blacks are observed stuffing the ballot boxes, while many whites are denied the vote.
That's a lie. Blacks and whites had the vote back then. There was a voting act passed that gave free slaves the right to vote. Go ahead, sir. That's a lie. Go ahead, sir.
The newly elected, mostly black members of the South Carolina legislature are shown at their desks displaying inappropriate behavior, such as one member taking off his shoe and putting his feet up on the desk, and others drinking liquor and feasting on stereotypically African-American fare such as fried chicken.
Stop. In the movie, we got Gentiles in blackface, newly elected government officials, sitting at their desks, kicking their shoes off, playing little yakshi, eating chicken, drinking cognac. Y'all understand the story? Is that not the same story they tell about us right now?
Yep.
This is the proverb that the Bible talks about. This is one of the things that causes systemic racism. A story told about us, not by us, but about us. Go ahead, sir.
Meanwhile, inspired by observing white children pretending to be ghosts to scare black children, Ben fights back by forming the Ku Klux Klan.
By doing what?
Forming the Ku Klux Klan.
Come on.
As a result, Elsie, out of a loyalty to her father, breaks off her relationship with Ben. Later, Flora Cameron goes off alone into the woods to fetch water and is followed by Gus, a freedman.
Gus is supposed to be a black person. Remember, Gus is a white man in blackface. What is Gus doing when he sees this white woman? Go ahead, sir.
A freedman and soldier who is now a captain. He confronts Flora and tells her that he desires to get married. Frightened, she flees into the forest, pursued by Gus. Trapped on a precipice,
Which is a cliff. Go ahead.
Flora warns Gus she will jump if he comes in closer.
So just let me tell you what's going on in the point of the story here. We got the white woman standing on the cliff's edge, and she's telling Gus, which by the way, Gus is a white man in blackface, if you come closer, I will jump. I would rather die than to deal with you or marry you. Propaganda. Continue, sir.
When he does, she leaps to her death. Having run through the forest looking for her, Ben has seen her jump. He holds her as she dies, then carries her body back to the Cameron home. In response, the Klan hunts down Gus, tries him, finds him guilty, and lynches him.
Look at all the videos. Y'all understand what we're talking about right now? Do you understand the proverb? Do you understand the story that is being told about us but not by us? And again, this is out of the Bible. I'm proving out of the Bible and in reality where these things intersect. Go ahead, sir.
Both Griffith and Dixon, in letters to the press, dismissed African American protests against the birth of a nation, saying that the reason black men disliked the film was because they wanted to have sex with white women.
Stop. Has nothing to do with the prejudice, racist stuff that's going on in there. Nothing to do with that. It doesn't have anything to do with chicken and liquor and Klan. It's because black men just want to have sex with white women. That's the whole reason why we're protesting this movie. It's ridiculous. Go ahead, sir.
And the film depicted miscegenation.
Miscegenation. That means basically marrying other races, other nationalities. Go ahead, bro.
As an evil.
Come on.
In a letter to the New York Globe, Griffith wrote that his film was an influence against the intermarriage of blacks and whites. Dixon likewise called the NAACP the Negro Intermarriage Society.
Stop. The NAACP, in order for him to discredit and be dismissive, not listening to their claims, he said, well, the NAACP, oh, I don't listen to them, that's just the National Negro Intermarriage Council. Go ahead, sir.
And said it was against the birth of a nation for one reason only.
Which was?
Because it opposes the marriage of blacks to whites.
Come on.
Griffith, indignant at the film's negative and critical reception, wrote letters to newspapers and published a pamphlet in which he accused his critics of censoring unpopular opinions.
Come on.
Griffith's 1916 pamphlet, The Rise and Fall of a Free Speech in America, used racialized language.
Wait, what kind of language?
Racialized language and images, such as a cartoon that depicted censorship as a monstrous black man.
Wait, what kind of black man?
As a monstrous black
A
man.
docile black man.
And a monstrous black
A regular black man.
A monstrous black man.
We got Shaquille O'Neal on PCP, y'all. Go ahead.
With a lascivious expression on his face.
Looking real thirsty. Go ahead.
Eyeing free speech, who appeared as a white woman.
Oh, wait, what was free speech now?
As a white woman dressed in a white dress.
A white woman in a white dress and Shaquille O'Neal on PCP is thirsty. Go ahead, bro.
Free speech points at censorship and says all history, all reason condemns you. Go. In his pamphlet, Griffith called censorship this malignant pygmy who had mutated into a fully grown Caliban, a character
That's a Shakespearean character. Skip to the next reading. Last line.
In November of 1915, William Joseph Simmons revived a Klan in Atlanta, Georgia.
Wait, who did what now?
In November 1915, William Joseph Simmons revived the Klan in Atlanta, Georgia. The historian John Hope Franklin observed that it had not been for the birth of a nation, the Klan might not have been reborn.
If it had not been for this movie called The Birth of the Nation, which portrayed black men by being aggressive, unintelligent, and stupid, and a threat to white women, the KKK would not have been revived. The story was sold to revive one of the longest standing domestic terrorist groups in the country. This is the propaganda. Now, I'm going to show, so I showed you from the 1600s on to 1915. I'm going to show you that bias, to this day, that story, it still exists. The story that they tell, what the construct tells about us, still exists. Give me the black hate bias, bro. Give me the black hate bias. See, it has to be sold that we are not human. That is what has to be sold. We are we're naturally inferior, and we are even human. I'll get to that later on. Black hate bias. Go ahead, sir.
So, Penn State study. Subconscious connection between blacks, apes may reinforce subtle
A
bias.
subconscious connection between blacks and apes. Animals. Go ahead.
March 5th, 2008.
Come on.
University Park Fair, Pennsylvania. Many U.S. citizens may not hold openly racist beliefs today, but they still may subconsciously link African Americans with apes, because people still use words and metaphors that subtly reinforce a less than human bias and endorse violence against blacks, according to a new study.
We're talking about a less than human. This is what the story is. Not only are we naturally inferior because God made us that way, according to the construct, but we're also not human. What I want you to understand, that will cause a psychosis. But simultaneously, I want you to understand what we're dealing with. So you won't be disappointed when someone is tripping on you. Understand, that's what they've been sold. And that actually happened because what we didn't do, which was follow God. Go ahead, sir.
Historical racist images and books dehumanizing African Americans in the 19th and early 20th century relied heavily on the Negro ape metaphor.
The what?
Negro ape metaphor.
Stop. Have anyone ever heard of the Negro ape metaphor before this time? Go ahead, sir.
Which was used to stereotype blacks as lazy, dim, and aggressive.
Wait, hold on. But you want me to breastfeed your kids, though? You want me to build your house, though? You want me to plant your farm, though? Oh, but Deuteronomy said I would do all those things. Oh, okay, I understand now. I understand now. Go ahead, sir.
Led author Philip Atiba Goff, assistant professor of psychology at Penn State. Such dehumanization and animal imagery have been used for centuries to justify violence against many oppressed groups. The images have disappeared from popular culture and from most people's memory, he added. However, after completing 6 studies, we found strong evidence that black ape linkages still influence people subconsciously and impact their judgment, particularly in the case of African American suspects and defendants.
So we're talking about how we get treated based on a story that is told about us but not by us. And that story or proverb was predicted in the Bible. Y'all not hearing me. Go ahead, brother.
The sixth study showed that in hundreds of news stories from 1979 to 1990.
So we're talking analyzing news stories. Go ahead, sir.
In the Philadelphia Inquirer, African Americans convicted of capital crimes were about 4 times more likely than whites convicted of capital crimes to be described with 8 relevant language such as barbaric, beast, brute, savage, and wild.
Stop. It's a story that's been told about us but not by us. This is the story. This is the proverb that follows us because of our disobedience to God. Go ahead, sir.
But not seeing blacks as humans led to implicit or subconscious bias leading to support of stereotyping and other forms of discrimination against African Americans. He said, old-fashioned prejudice involves deliberate actions and beliefs. By studying implicit knowledge and how it functions, we can study the mechanisms in hopes of remedying dehumanization's savage consequences.
We're talking dehumanization. We're talking us not being viewed as human. Not only that, us being viewed as animals. Now, I've showed you the human side of it. I'm going to show you how the story has even been translated over into software algorithms. The software algorithms have a bias, an 8 Negro bias. The software, computer software has a bias. They have the story against us. Y'all ain't hearing me. Something about Google, man.
Google apologizes for photos, apps, racist blunder.
Come on.
Google says it is appalled that its new Photos app mistakenly labeled a black couple as being gorillas.
Stop. Y'all think I'm playing with my research, huh? Black ape bias. The software has a bias against us. The software knows the story. That has been told since creation. Should I say not since creation, since we disobeyed God. The story that follows us is that we're not human. Matter of fact, we're animals. And Google's picture software classified a black couple as gorillas. Again, reinforcing the Negro ape bias. Go ahead, sir.
Its product automatically tags uploaded pictures using its own facial artificial intelligence software. The error was brought to its attention by a New York-based software developer who was one of the people pictured in the photos involved.
So him and his girl, this is a software designer in New York, and he's just on Google's site checking out photos, and he sees him and his girl on this Google site classified as gorillas. Imagine if you ran across you and your woman, and you stand and you look and you're like, wait, what? That is what happened. The software has a bias. Go ahead, sir.
Google was later criticized on social media because of the label's racist connotations.
Come on.
It was high on my list of bugs you never want to see happen.
Duh. Now, tell about Google talking about the bias. I showed you the Penn State saying that there is subtle 8 Negro metaphors, subtle 8 Negro biases. I'm showing you the software that classified a black couple as gorillas. Now I'm showing you top executives at Google talking about, hey, our software has a bias against black people. Go ahead, sir.
Google executive warns of Face ID bias, July 27, 2018.
A facial ID bias. Imagine software that is supposed to classify and deal with you automatically having a bias against you. How does a computer have a bias against me?
It was
I'll tell you
programmed.
how.
It was programmed to have it.
Thank you. Because of the story that has followed us, because of the proverb, because we disrespected God by following other gods. I'm showing you outside of the Bible, empirical, immutable evidence. Y'all ain't hearing me. The proverb is real. Understand what we're up against. Don't be sad by it. Understand it and be able to adapt and move inside the construct. Go ahead, sir.
Facial recognition technology does not yet have the diversity it needs and has inherent biases, a top Google executive has warned.
How does an inanimate object have a bias against me? How does an inanimate object, that's like saying this bottle of water is mad at me. Go ahead, man. Yeah, my pencil hates me. What?
The remarks from the firm's director of cloud computing, Diane Green, came after rival Amazon software wrongly identified 28 members of Congress, disproportionately people of color, as police suspects.
Stop. It took some members of Congress, ran it through the algorithm, and the algorithm said, these dudes is criminals. We're talking members of Congress. Maxine Waters, right? Y'all hear me? Y'all understand what's going on? I see some thumbs. Go ahead, man.
Ms. Green said that while Google does use facial recognition to help users identify friends in pictures, its underlying technology was not open for public use. We need to be really careful about how we use this kind of technology, she told the BBC. We're thinking really deeply. The humanistic side of AI, it doesn't have the diversity it needs, and the data itself will have some inherent biases. So everybody's working to understand that. She added, I think everybody wants to do the right thing. I'm sure Amazon wants to do the right thing too, but it's a new technology. It's a very powerful tool, or technology. Google's image recognition software has been offensively inaccurate in the past. In 2015, it identified a black couple as being gorillas.
That's it.
I apologize.
So, you guys have a thorough understanding now of the proverb of the story. You understand about Carolina's ladies. You understand about Plato and Aristotle and the great chain of being. You understand about Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. You understand about the propaganda that sold it. Now you even understand that the computers that are used to actually fight crime and everything has a bias against us. This is a story. This is a proverb. This is in the Bible. Are we real clear on this concept right now? Could you have an unemotional yet intelligent conversation with someone who is trying to tell you that there's no such thing as racism? I didn't hear everybody is like,
Yes.
I'm going to ask again. This is not rhetorical. Could you have an intelligent, unemotional conversation with someone who is trying to tell you that there is no such thing as racism?
Yes.
That's all I'm looking for. Now that we dealt with the proverb, now that we dealt with the proverb, I'm going to deal with the byword. Byword is a name. Now this is the point in the lesson where everybody, my teacher would start naming all the names that we've been associated. I'm going to skip all that. I'm going directly to the most famous name that we have. And I'm only going to say it once. Nigger. That's the name that will follow you where you are. I want you to understand something. Martin Luther King said that because black people were classified as things. He said a thingification. Because of the thingification of black people, we have a sense of nobodiness. I mean, I can tell them that out of the Bible. But my point is, with this word, whatever that means, because I know we didn't invent that, whatever that word means, the problem is, it was made for us, not by us. The problem is there's about 50 negative connotations that come with that one pejorative term. The problem is, when another nation uses that word against me, they're trying to cut me, demean me, and tell me that I am not human. A person asks me, well, you guys call each other that. Well, when I say that, if I say that to Travis, I would be trying to cut into his bones and demean him. But when other nations use that to identify with us, they're trying to hurt us. So this is what I'm going to tell y'all. Don't help them. If you're outside, and you with your partners and y'all chopping it up and you see there's a lot of other nations around you, do not use that word. Do not help them punch you in the face. Please. Now, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you that word followed us in Germany during Nazi Germany. Give me that Nazi Germany Bible, man. Y'all been hearing me. When the Lord said we was going to be a proverb and a byword, y'all think he's playing? Don't think so. Go ahead, sir.
Black Germans and the Holocaust.
Come on.
Lecture delivered at the International Slavery Museum, Liverpool on 27 January 2015.
Come on.
Eve Rosenhaft, University of Liverpool. Let me start at the end of the story with the post-war testimony of a woman called Soya K. She was the daughter of a Cameroonian man and his German wife. Raised by her mother after her parents' divorce, she was 15 when Hitler came to power in 1933.
So we're talking about a black woman. She's German. Her dad was German, and her dad was Cameroonian, right? Her dad was Cameroonian from Africa, right? And her mother was German. Okay? So we're talking about a half-breed woman. Who's black? Let's just put it on the table. She's black. Go ahead.
In April 1951, she applied to the Berlin Compensation Office for a substantial compensation in view of what she had suffered between the Nazi takeover in 1933 and the end of the war.
So she's trying to get reparations for what happened to her personally. Now, think about it. Nobody that's an Israelite has received any reparations. Everyone else who's been in conflict has received reparations. Continue, sir.
This was a story she told.
Come on.
In the summer of 1933, Nazis took over the suburban villa where she and her mother lived, declaring that a cellar was good enough for people who were racially inferior.
Stop. They took over her crib and made her live in her basement because she was racially inferior. Because Johann Friedrich Blumenbach and Carolinus Linnaeus and Aristotle and Plato told them to say that. That's the story. Go ahead, sir.
In 1936, she was expelled from her secondary school, along with a half-Jewish schoolmate. In the summer of 1936, she was declared stateless. Having hoped to study medicine, she was unable to get work because of her skin color.
Wait, because of what?
Because of her skin color.
So she went from about to be a doctor to having no job, no place that she could call home, all because of her color, her phenotype. Go ahead, sir.
So she trained as a dancer and traveled to France with a theatrical review.
Come on, man. Again, I'm showing you that word follows you wherever you are, in whatever language you speak. Go ahead, sir.
Let me step back now and outline the pattern and trajectory of official policy towards blacks in Nazi Germany.
Come on.
There is no question that fear and hatred of Jews stood at the center of Nazi thinking.
So Jews is right here as far as people they didn't like. Go ahead.
About what the Nazis called race and motivated the key measures that the regime introduced. At the same time, it's clear that blacks were marked out from a very early stage as a group that would need to be dealt with in the general reordering of society.
Stop. What does dealt with mean?
Killed off.
If somebody says, I'm going to deal with that dude, does that mean he's going to give him $100? Or is he going to be dumping them out? He's going to be dumping them out. They said, off top, the Germans figured out, hey, we got to deal with these blacks if we want racial purity. Racial purity. What is that? Go ahead, sir. Come on. Yeah. No. Right
In 1939,
there. Yeah.
were officials banned from performing public.
1939. Who?
Well, in 1939, blacks were officially banned from performing in public.
All right.
Black children were formally excluded from state schools in Austria in June 1939,
So if you're black, no education for you just because your skin color. Go ahead.
and the rest of the Reich in March 1941.
Come on.
The last formal measure directed at blacks as such was a decree issued by Himmler on 10 October 1942.
To do what?
Local police authorities throughout Germany and the occupied territories were ordered to locate and report back to the Reich Criminal Police Bureau on all Neger, and Neger Mischlin.
Neger and Neger Menschling.
Neger Mischlins.
Neger Menschling. Neger and Neger Menschling.
Sorry, I'm not up to date on my German.
Y'all ain't hearing me.
Male and female?
Y'all ain't hearing me. Y'all hearing me?
Yes.
You see that word follows you wherever you go? The SS and the Nazis was out trying to find niggers.
Neger Mischlins
Go ahead.
currently living in the areas of responsibility. It isn't entirely clear what lay behind the 1942 order, but it looks like part of the general radicalization in policy towards a whole range of racial aliens.
Racial what?
Racial aliens.
Come on.
That took place in wartime.
We were racial aliens. Go ahead.
Himmler's order for the rest. Oh, okay. Now anyone interned in a concentration camp had their racial status recorded. But in the second half of the war, we find some evidence that people were being arrested simply for being black.
Let's say that one more time. People were arrested for doing what?
But in the second half of the war, we find some evidence that people were being arrested simply for being black.
Stop. Has anything changed?
No.
What does the Bible say? Proverb and a byword. Oppressed and crushed always. Of course we have a psychosis. Of course as a people we have a disorder, a psychological malfunction because of what we have endured. Y'all ain't hearing me. So you can have this conversation with somebody. Someone who is, like if Ben Shapiro is trying to tell you that there's no such thing as systemic racism and just pick yourself up, you need to have an in-depth conversation with facts and tell Ben, bro, not only were they snatching up your people, but they were snatching up my people, just for being black. Now, what did they term? What was the term for being black? When you got arrested for being black, what is that term?
Let me read.
Yep.
Like 14-year-old son of African American man, Gerd Schramm,
Come on.
arrested in 1944. His prisoner card at Buchenwald concentration camp gave Negerschmilling.
No.
Negerschmilling.
Neger Menschling. Go ahead.
As the reason for internment.
He was put in a concentration camp for Neger Menschling, meaning being black. Y'all hear me? Y'all shocked. I see your faces. I understand your faces. Listen, I just want to provide this information so you can have intelligent, unemotional discourse concerning the conditions of our people and why we have a problem, why we do what we do. Y'all clear on this? Y'all understand Neger Menschling? Right. Let's go back to the Bible. Turn me down, too loud. That is why we have a negative self-perception, because of the story that is told about us, but not by us. And the story that the Lord said is going to be told about us, because we disobeyed Him. That is why there's a crime in Germany called Neger Menschling, because we went after other gods. Let's go back to the book. Back to the book. Back to Deuteronomy 28, verse 41. Deuteronomy 28, verse 41. Now that we dealt with the proverb and the byword, let's deal with something else. Go ahead, bro.
Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
Come on.
All thy trees and fruit of thy land shall the locust consume. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low.
And in case you don't understand 43, 44 is going to tell you. Go ahead.
And he shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
The stranger that is within you, that is among you, is going to be over you, and you're going to not have money, and you're going to have to go to him for your money. Y'all don't believe that? Let me show you something. Give me the black and white wealth gap. Give me the wealth gap. The total aggregate means total. The total aggregate wealth of the United States of America is $94 trillion. $94 trillion. That's according to a June 2017 article in Forbes. All right? Gentiles collectively control 90% or $87 trillion of the United States wealth. We, Israel, so-called black people, and I have to revise this number because I spoke with Mr. Reggie Noble at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and he actually gave me a more clear number. We control about 1.78%. 1.78%. We control approximately, our purchasing power, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is about 1.6 trillion. They control 87 trillion. We control about 1.6 trillion of purchasing power. Now, if you add assets and everything else, it's about 3%. So we control 3%, and I'm being very generous with that. We control about 3 trillion. They control 87 trillion. When we were released from slavery in 1864, we controlled 1% of the wealth of this country. 155 years later, we only control 0.7% more than we were enslaved. When the Lord says the strength is going to get up very high, and you're going to come down very low, and you're going to borrow from him, and you're not going to have any money. That's why I got the numbers to back the book. Let them know about that wealth gap, man. Let's slap them in the faces. I see y'all shocked, and I'm sorry, but this is the conversation we have to have. We have to do better, y'all. We have to do better. We can't just be emotional and just be, thrown from stem to stern because of this information. We need to fight back. Go ahead, sir.
The source is CNN Money. Who does the show? Is that a show?
It's a show.
CNN Money.
Well, it's actually it's not only a show, but it's actually, CNBC, man. Anyway, yeah, it's CNBC. Go ahead.
And this was the black and white wealth gap. The wealth gap between blacks and whites in America will take hundreds of years to close, if ever.
Please read that again. Dave,
the wealth gap between blacks and whites in America will take hundreds of years to close, if ever.
Stop. The strength is going to get up very high. You're going to come down very low. To close the wealth gap, it will take hundreds of years, if ever. Go ahead.
If current trends persist, it will take 228 years for black families to accumulate the same amount of wealth as whites.
Please read that again.
If current trends persist, it will take 228 years for black families to accumulate the same amount of wealth as whites, according to a report released this week from the Corporation for Economic Development and the Institute for Policy Studies. For Latino families, it will take 84 years.
84 years for Latinos. Latinos are considered in the kind of concept. They're sons of conquistadors. I classify them as Gentiles also. It will take 84 years for them, but for us, 228. When it says the stranger will get up very high, you will come down very low, let me show you how low. 228 years low. $1.7 trillion out of 94 trillion low. That's how low. Numbers quantify. It's not a game. When I throw the numbers on the table, when you throw the numbers on the table with someone trying to tell you something about black people need to pick ourselves up, do this, do that, yada, yada, yada. Let me tell you something, dude. Let me tell you the numbers. Then let's have that conversation. Unemotionally. Go ahead, sir.
Over the past 30 years, the average household with wealth of white families has grown 85% to $656,000.
Please read that again.
Over the past 30 years, the average household wealth of white families has grown 85% to $656,000. $656,000.
$656,000. You include cash in the bank, stock, bonds, investments. You include property. We're talking an average family. $676,000.
56.
$656,000. What about us?
While that of blacks has climbed just 27% to 85,000.
85,000 versus 656,000. Go ahead, sir.
And Latinos 69% to 98,000.
Go ahead.
We're seeing wealth concentrating in fewer and fewer hands, and those hands are overwhelmingly white, said Josh Hoxie, who leads the project on opportunity and taxation at the Institute for Policy Studies.
I'm telling you about the construct that we're in right now. I'm showing you the numbers. I'm showing you when the Bible says we're going to come down very low, that's how low we're going to come down. Now, this is how we counteract the discourse that's going on right now in the echo chamber of slavery is over, pick yourselves up, you should do better. Okay, fine. Here's the numbers. Stay with me on this. Slavery in America went on for 245 years. I'm going to ask you, did you guys know that slavery went on for 245 years before this moment? Why? Why? I've sit through a gang of curses lessons, and I didn't know that until I researched it. My point is, we're talking 245 years of being at a disadvantage, okay? From 1624 to 1863, after the 13th Amendment, we were free without any transfer of property, goods, clothing, housing, nor wealth with which to build. So we was homeless, naked, with no place to go, and couldn't read. All right? Now, while that was going on, while we became free, there's this thing called the Homestead Act of 1862, which granted anyone who knew about it and applied and paid a registration fee, they could receive 160 acres of public lands. And what they had to do for 5 years, live on it, put a dwelling up, and grow crops. And after 5 years, that 160 acres would become theirs. Now here's the question. Did anyone in this room know about the Homestead Act of 1862 and that you can get 160 acres? 1, 2, 3. 3. Now, how come a majority of us in this room did not know about that? Number one. Number two, how come none of our family members took advantage of that and passed down 160 acres? Now, let me shock you with this. The Homestead Act of 1862 went on for 95 years. And it ended in 1976. It ended in 1976. That means our parents and grandparents could have gotten 160 acres and passed it down to us. Y'all hearing me? Okay, y'all with me? And now, while that was going on, so while we're being freed and we're naked and we don't have a place to live and we're doing all this other stuff, and they're giving away 160 acres if you can just fill out an application for it and live on it, while that's all going on, they passed this thing called the Morrill Act of 1865. The Morrill Act of 1865 and of 1890, they revised it in 1890, allowed states to sell public land, right? So part of those acreages that was involved with those states, they could sell some of it, and the proceeds from those sales were collected and went to establish land grant colleges that taught farming, engineering, and military tactics to supplement people that received 160 acres from the Homestead Act. Did anybody know about that? So, you have to understand, when a person tells us slavery was over and pick ourselves up, it's easy to say that. But the reality is everyone benefited from that legislation except us. By 1900, 80 million acres were given away by 1900. And a majority of free slaves were sharecropping. So when someone tells us to pick ourselves up, we have to put the facts on the table. It's easy to tell me that, but while my ancestors were naked, so-called free, naked, without anything, other ancestors, other nationalities were picking up 160 acres and free schooling and low-cost loans to farm that land. Martin Luther King looked me up with that information. Is that shocking? We were getting 40 acres and a mule. Old one was 40 acres and a mule. We couldn't get that. But everybody else, They get 160 acres. Let's go back to the book. Let's go back to the book. That is the conversation, that is the facts, that is the numbers. Y'all put it on the table and talk to me. Now, back to the book. Deuteronomy 28, verse 45. Go ahead, brother.
Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
Do y'all understand we're dealing with slavery caused by God, but do you understand the mechanisms? Go ahead, sir.
The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
I'm going to show you that it's not just Gentiles, but it's nations. There is a conspiracy against us, and there are more people involved than just quote-unquote white people. I'm going to show you some of the people. Go to Psalms 83. This is to not depress you, my family. This is so you got the numbers. This is so you can have an intelligent, unemotional conversation. And this is how you can reach us. Psalms 83. We're going 2 through 8. And we're going to skip to 12. Psalms 83, 2 through 8. Go ahead, brother.
For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones.
Come on.
They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
Please read that again. Verse 4, sir.
They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
Come on.
For they have consulted together with one counsel, with one consent. They are confederate against thee.
These are the people that are confederate against us. And I'm going to tell you something. A majority of them, at the time, when this is said, were black people, Africans, Hamites. So while we want to shoot shots at Gentiles and everything, let's remember who was the original confederacy against us. Go ahead, sir.
Verse 6.
Come on.
The tabernacles of Edom,
They make black people. Go ahead.
and the Ishmaelites
Come on.
of Moab,
Come on.
and the Hagarenes, Gebal, and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre.
Come on.
Acer also is joined with them. They have opened the children of Lot, Selah.
Skip down to verse 12. Go ahead, sir.
Who said, Let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession.
They said, let's take their stuff. All because we didn't listen to God. Back to Deuteronomy 28. I'm not trying to rail on Gentiles. I'm dealing with this in this iteration of it. I'm showing you what we endured in this hemisphere. But this is because we have a psychosis. Psychological problems relates to the treatment that we receive. And if we had to listen to God, we need to be having this problem right now. Deuteronomy 28, we're going 63 through 68. This is world famous, but I'm going to show y'all something else. Go ahead, brother.
And it shall come to pass, that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught. And ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess
Did
it.
that say the white man was going to rejoice over us to kill us?
Negative.
That said the Lord,
Yes.
right?
Yes, sir.
So the Lord is rejoicing over this situation that's happening to us because it's our punishment, right? Your kids want to talk crazy, what you going to do? You're going to tighten them up, right? Not only you going to be happy to tighten them up, but you have to tighten them up. Same premise. Go ahead, sir.
64.
Come on.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people.
Just Europe.
All people.
Just Russia.
All people.
Come on.
from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
Come on.
And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind.
Please read 65 again. That's the psychosis from the curses. Go ahead, brother.
And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind.
So if you're in Germany and you black and you see them Nazis, what's going to happen? Trembling mind, fearful, because you can wind up in a concentration camp just for being black for nigger mentioning. Go ahead, brother.
66.
Come on.
And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life.
When you got the Klan trying to get you, when you got algorithms that are against you, your life hangs in doubt. Go ahead, brother.
67.
Come on.
In the morning thou shalt say, would God it were even. And at even thou shalt say, would God it were morning.
Come on.
For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see.
Come on.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
How do we get to this hemisphere?
Ship.
How did we get to this hemisphere?
Ship.
Were the accommodations wonderful? Were we chained? Were we in the bottom of a hole of a ship with no air? And what happens if you got sick?
Left you there.
Threw you overboard. But first of all, let me not project that. He said, I'm going to bring you into Egypt with ships. Fine, that says Egypt. That don't say America. So what does Egypt represent? Let's prove it. Let's go to Deuteronomy 6. What is Egypt symbolic of? Deuteronomy 6. When a person says, when you show somebody this, and they say, it's Egypt, what does that mean? Take them right over to Deuteronomy 6. This is our fourth slavery. This is the fourth iteration of our slavery. Iteration means version. This is the fourth version of our slavery. Our first slavery was where?
Egypt.
Deuteronomy 6, verse 21. Please read that to him, brother.
Then thou shalt say unto thy son, we were Pharaoh's bondmen in Egypt, and the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand.
Bondmen, slaves in Egypt. All right. Well, fine. That's okay. Well, black people, okay. Y'all was in slavery, but, you know, white people was in slavery too. Okay. Is that true? All right. Guess what I found? I found an argument for that too. Now, there were these pirates called the Barbary pirates. Okay? They were Ottoman Turks. They were called Ottoman Corsairs. Okay? They took some white people into slavery. I'm going to show you the difference between that slavery and our slavery. So no one can use that slavery against us. Go ahead, sir.
The source of this, historicuk.com. Barbary pirates and English slaves.
Say that again.
Barbary pirates and English slaves.
We have Gentile slaves. We have found them in history. Go ahead, sir.
For over 300 years.
How long?
Over 300 years.
Come on.
The coastlines of the southwest of England were at the mercy of Barbary pirates from the coast of North Africa, based mainly in the ports of Algiers, Tunis, and Tripoli.
We're talking Ottoman Turks who are pirates who sailed the seas, and not only were they taking European merchant ships, they would jack your ship, take all your stuff off your ship, and take everybody on there as a hostage or a slave to make them either broke or build ships. And not only were they taking European merchant ships, they were sailing up the coast, past North Africa, into England, and they was landing on hitting seaside villages, snatching people up. But there's a difference between that slavery, which lasted, they say 300 years, but I found some conflict and stuff on that. Even if I give it 300 years, they say the numbers are about 1 million of them went into slavery, which the official records only talk about 32,000 of them. The person who did the research, he extrapolated the numbers to 1 million. But even if I give you 1 million of them going into slavery, it still doesn't compare to 12,700,000 on the record of us going into slavery. There's a difference between the two slaveries, though. I'm going to show you when the Bible says no man shall buy you, I'm going to show you what that means. Go ahead, sir.
Their number included not only North Africans, but also English and Dutch privateers. Their aim was to capture slaves for the Arab slave markets in North Africa.
Mind you, these were white guys taking slaves of white people. So when people say, well, black people took black slaves, yeah. The Ottoman Turks, the Ottoman Cossars, they took slaves too, and they were white too. Go ahead, brother.
The Barbary pirates attacked and plundered not only those countries bordering the Mediterranean, but as far north as the English Channel, Ireland, Scotland, and Iceland.
That's Gentiles. Come on.
With the western coast of England almost being raided at will.
Come on.
Partly as a result of an inadequate naval deterrent, by the 17th century, the situation was so bad that an entry into the calendar of state papers in May 1625 stated, the Turks are upon our coast.
So the Turks, the Ottoman Turks, were smashing on England and Ireland and North Africa. They had their slave markets in Africa, North Africa. Okay? But the Ottoman Turks were not only Arabs. The Ottoman Turks were Gentiles, but the people that was taking the Ottoman Cossars, they were Dutch, they were English, and it was some Hamitic people too. My point is, it wasn't black people taking white people into slavery. It was white people taking white people into slavery also, which went on for 200 and some odd years. But here's the point. Go ahead, sir.
They take the ships only to take the men to make slaves of them.
Come on.
Barbary pirates raided on land as well as at sea. In August 1625, corsairs raided Mounts Bay, Cornwall, capturing 60 men, women, and children and taking them into slavery.
Come on.
In 1626, St. Caverd was repeatedly attacked, and boats of Lou, Penzance, Mousehole, and other Cornish ports were boarded, their crews taken captive, and their empty ships left adrift.
So we're talking pirates raiding ships of merchants, taking the people hostage, or should I say taking them into slavery and taking the possessions on the boats. This is a pirate thing. This is something different from our slavery. Go ahead, sir.
It was feared that there were around 60 Barbary men of war prowling the Devon and Cornish coast, and attacks were now occurring almost daily.
Come on.
Sir John Eliot, Vice Admiral of Devon, declared that the seas around England seemed theirs.
Come on.
The situation was so bad that in December 1640, a committee of Algiers was set up by a parliament to oversee the ransoming of captives.
Stop. This is the difference. Pay attention. This is the difference. Go ahead.
At that time, it was reported that there were some 3,000 to 5,000 English people in captivity in Algiers. Charities were also set up to help ransom the captives, and local fishing communities clubbed together to raise money to liberate their own.
Stop. Y'all understand the difference between that slavery and ours? They put money together. Their country put money together to buy them back. They went and bought some of their people back. My question is, did anyone come to buy us back? So when the Lord says, no man will buy you, that's what he's talking about. Nobody's going to come and put no bread together and come and get you. They had their people come and get them. Continue, sir.
Those kidnapped would be sent to the slave markets of the Ottoman Empire to be bought as laborers or concubines and pressed into the galleys where they would man the oars. The Spanish novelist Miguel de Cervantes, author of Don Quixote, was a captive in Algiers between 1575 and 1580.
So 5 years. He was a slave for about 5 years. And guess what? Somebody actually bought him. His parents bought him. The Catholic Church put together money to buy the white Christians. My point is, nobody came to buy us. Nobody came to buy us out of it. That's the difference. When the Bible says you're going to be a bondman and a bondwoman and no one's going to buy you, ain't nobody going to come with a duffel bag and get you to go home. Nobody. Go ahead, brother.
Between 1575 and 1580, when he was ransomed by his parents and the Trinitarians, a Catholic religious order.
That's what I'm trying to tell y'all. The difference between our slavery and everyone else's slavery, someone was going to come and buy them back. All right? Our slavery is different. Our slavery is chattel. Chattel slavery means you and I are property, not humans. Read chattel property to them, man, so they can understand what's going on. This is our slavery.
Slavery Remembrance Day Memorial Lecture, 2007.
Come on, man.
Transcript of the Slavery Remembrance Day Memorial Lecture at Liverpool Town Hall, 21 August 2007. The lecture was given by Dr. Molabi Keat
Somehow,
Asante,
go ahead, man.
a distinguished author, most recently of the history of Africa, and professor in the Department of African American Studies at Temple University, USA.
So he's at Temple University, and this is what he had to say about our slavery. Go ahead.
In the lecture, Dr. Asante looked at the motivations and beliefs behind the something ridiculous in the nature to see an American patriot singing resolutions of independence.
Right here, bro.
The thread that held contradictions together was the acceptance of the idea that Africans were chattel property.
Say that again. That they were what?
The thread that held these contradictions together was the acceptance of the idea that Africans were chattel property.
We were property. That's the problem. The problem is we were never looked at as being, first of all, fully human, and second of all, being looked at as property also. That is what the struggle is for us. No one can understand. That truly is a struggle for us to be viewed as human and to be viewed as not being property. That's the real struggle. Go ahead, sir.
By the time of the Declaration of Independence in 1776, the English colonies of North America had experienced more than 100 years of steady indoctrination in the legal idea that Africans were chattel and on the moral idea that Africans had no rights to life.
No what?
No rights to life, liberty, or the pursuit of happiness that whites had to respect.
We had no right to life. We were property. We weren't considered human. See, the difference between racism and prejudice is this. Racism has laws. They have legal mechanisms that assist the prejudice. A prejudice is, I just don't like women drivers. Sorry, lady. I don't like women drivers. That's a prejudice. But I can change that. I can change my mindset. On an individual basis, I can change. Racism requires laws to change it. It requires legislation to change it. This is the difference between our slavery and everyone else's. We were viewed by law. In the legal definition, we were property. Go ahead, brother.
Dehumanization of Africans.
Come on.
Thus, the origin of race and racism in the 17th century became a basis for categories of subordination and hegemony.
Categories of subordination. Family? Go ahead.
Although today we are aware that the race myth is problematic, the European colonists and slave traders of the 17th and 18th centuries were sure that there were genetic and biological differences that constituted whites as superior beings to blacks. Thus, what whites were constructing was something more sinister than ritualistic racial bigotry.
Difference between prejudice and racism. Prejudice just requires a person to change their mind. Racism requires laws to change because racism has legal mechanisms inside of it. Go ahead, sir.
They created an oppressive, systematic form of dehumanization of Africans. One might claim that the leading opinion makers, philosophers, and theologians of the European enslavers organized the category of blackness as pure property value. We Africans were, in effect, without soul, spirit, emotions, desires, and rights. Chattel could have neither mind nor spirit.
And the sad feature of chattel property is this. If you're considered chattel property, your children that come from your loins are automatically relegated to slavery forever. So if you were a slave and you had a child and you were considered chattel property, your children were slaves by birth. Y'all ain't hearing me. I guess y'all heard that before. This is heavy, ain't it? And I'm not being cavalier. I'm saying this is what we're up against. Now, let's go back to the book. Let's go to Jeremiah 2. Chattel slavery is different than every other form of slavery, and that is the form of slavery that we dealt with. Chattel, we were property. In this iteration, the legal mechanism classified us as property. That's why they had the Runaway Slave Act. If your slave ran away, somebody catch your slave, drag your slave back to where they belong. Laws, legal mechanism, Jeremiah 2. We're going 11 to 14. Jeremiah 2, 11 to 14. Again, this is not to be angry at anybody. This is just to have the conversation with the facts. Unemotionally. You want to tell me about there's no such thing as racism anymore? Well, you know the difference between prejudice and racism? If they don't, fool them. Let me show you what the Lord said about Chattel property. Y'all ain't hearing me. Jeremiah 2, let's go 11 to 14. Go ahead, bro.
Hath the nation changed their gods, which are yet no gods? But my people have changed their glory for that which doth not profit.
Come on.
Be astonished, O ye heavens, at this, and be horribly afraid. Be ye very desolate, saith the Lord.
Stop. He said, be horribly afraid. Be horribly afraid. Go ahead, man.
13. For my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewed them out cisterns, broken cisterns, that can hold no water.
In other words, the water in this is knowledge, is wisdom, and understanding. The Lord giveth the knowledge and wisdom and understanding. But our forefathers abandoned God for idols. That's what he's talking about. Here's the rub. Go ahead, brother.
14.
Yes.
Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled?
14 again, brother. I ain't hearing you.
Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled?
A homeborn slave is Chattel property. If your parents were slaves and they had children, their children were homeborn slaves, and their children's children's children. When the Lord says homeborn slave, Chattel property, family. Skip to 17. Go ahead, bro.
Hast thou not procured this unto thyself, in that thou hast forsaken the Lord thy God, when he led thee by the way?
This is what we're talking about. Skip to 19. Go ahead, brother.
Thine own wickedness shall correct thee, and thy backsliding shall reprove thee. Know therefore and see that it is an evil thing and bitter that thou hast forsaken the Lord thy God, and that my fear is not in thee, saith the Lord God of hosts.
Now, another sign of Israel that's going to follow us. Let's go to Isaiah 42. It's an oldie but goodie. Y'all with me out there? Just hold on, y'all. I got to give you this information so you can have an intelligent, unemotional conversation with someone. Not to mention, so we'll know what we're up against and how we can fix it. Another sign of Israel. Isaiah 42. This is so you can have an intelligent conversation with someone who is and qualified. They're trying to figure out, they're really trying to figure out how to help, or someone who's just trying to impute prejudices and races upon us. I refuse to let that dialogue happen. No one is going to tell me about my people if they don't care. If they care, let's have that conversation. If they don't care, I'm going to check them with the facts. We're going to keep pushing. Isaiah 42, we're going 18 to 25. This is another sign of Israel. This is oldie but goodie, but I'm going to show y'all something. Go ahead, bro.
Hear ye deaf, and look, ye blind, that ye may see. Who is blind but my servant, or deaf as my messenger that I sent? Who is blind as he that is perfect, and blind as the Lord's servant?
He's talking about Israel. He's talking about the fact that we don't ever think we do nothing wrong. Even when we do stuff wrong, when people tell us we're doing something wrong, we still don't do nothing wrong. And of course, that's a psychological malfunction. That's a cognitive distortion. That's why I dealt with that. Go ahead, sir.
20.
Come on.
Saying many things, but thou observest not. Opening the ears, but he heareth not.
Come on.
The Lord is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. He will magnify the law and make it honorable.
Come on.
But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. They are for prey, and none delivereth, for a spoil, and none saith, restore.
Again, nobody says restore. Hid in prison houses. Y'all ain't hearing. when the Bible say hid in prison houses, let me show y'all how we got hid in some prison houses. This is called the New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. She's a lawyer. She originally created this book to actually dispel the rumor that there's systemic racism still. And when she got into it, she found the New Jim Crow is the industrial prison complex. The New Jim Crow is prison. 5 through 7, bro. Come on, 5 through 7. Starting right. Hidden prison houses. Let's test the Bible and see if that's true. Go ahead, bro.
Most people assume the war on drugs was launched in response to crisis caused by crack cocaine in inner city neighborhoods.
So we're talking about the war on drugs. We're talking about the crack era. You know what all the rappers rap about? People still crazy enough to try to sell crack these days? We're talking about the crack era. Go ahead, bro.
This view holds that the racial disparities in drug convictions and sentences, as well as the rapid explosion of the prison population, reflecting nothing more than the government's zealous but benign efforts to address rampant drug crime in poor minority neighborhoods.
So what she's saying is, well, let's analyze what the drug wars are really about. Go ahead, sir.
This view, while understandable, given the sensational media coverage of crack in the 1980s and 1990s, is simply wrong. While it is true that the publicity surrounding crack cocaine led to dramatic increase in funding for the drug war, as well as sentencing policies that greatly exacerbated racial disparities in incarceration rates.
We're talking 5 to 1. You'd have to have 500 grams of powder versus 5 grams of crack cocaine to get a dub. And I know some cats that got a dub based on the crack laws. Go ahead, bro.
There is no truth to the notion.
Sorry, a dub is 20 years. 20 years. Let me not use a vernacular slang. Let me say 20 years. So if I'm in my hood and I got 5 grams of crack cocaine and I get crack, I could possibly get well, they had mandatory sentencing for 15 to 20 years. For someone who had powder cocaine, they would have to have 500 grams of powder. Y'all ain't hearing me. The difference is this versus this. Go ahead, man.
There is no truth to the notion that the war on drugs was launched in response to crack cocaine.
Wait, hold up. She just said that there was plenty of truth that the war on drugs was dealing specifically with the crack era. That's what she just said, right?
No.
What did she say?
There is no truth to the notion that the war on drugs was launched in response to crack cocaine.
Y'all hear that? The war on drugs is a fabrication. The war on drugs was something somebody made up specifically to deal with us. Go ahead, man.
President Ronald Reagan officially announced the current drug war in 1982.
1982, go ahead.
Before crack became an issue in the media or a crisis in poor black neighborhoods. A few years after the drug war declared, crack began to spread rapidly in the poor black neighborhoods.
What neighborhoods?
In the poor black neighborhoods of Los Angeles, and later emerged in cities across the country.
Come on.
The Reagan administration hired staff to publicize the emergence of crack cocaine in 1985 as part of a strategic effort to build public and legislative support for the war.
Hold on. Y'all hear what he just read? Propaganda. So again, we got the birth of a nation coming. This time the birth of a nation is for crack dealers, crack babies, and crack people, black people with crack. The whole propaganda is focused on that. Go ahead, or should I say aimed at that? Go ahead, sir.
The media campaign was an extraordinary success. Almost overnight, the media was saturated with images of black crack whores, crack dealers, and crack babies.
Please read that again. I ain't hearing you. The propaganda overnight has your image, the images on TV in nice suburban neighborhoods being this. Please read.
Almost overnight, the media was saturated with images of black crack whores, crack dealers, and crack babies, images that seem to confirm the worst negative racial stereotypes about impoverished inner city residents.
Stop. Y'all hear me? Go ahead, man.
The media bonanza surrounding the new demon drug helped to catapult the war on drugs from an ambitious federal policy to an actual war. The timing of the crack crisis helped to fuel conspiracy theories and general speculation in poor black communities that the war on drugs was part of a genocidal plan by the government to destroy black people.
Stop. The crack epidemic was a genocidal plan put together by the government for us. When he says hidden prison houses, this is what he's talking about. The Lord is masterful at destruction for those that are disobedient. Masterful. Go ahead, sir.
From the outset, stories circulated on the street that crack and other drugs were being brought into black neighborhoods by the CIA.
Stop. Read that again.
From the outset, stories circulated on the street that crack and other drugs were being brought into black neighborhoods by the CIA. Eventually, even the Urban League came to take the claims of genocide seriously. In its 1990 report, The State of Black America is stated, there is at least one concept that must be recognized if one is to see the pervasive and insidious nature of the drug problem for the African American community.
What's that one thing, brother? Go ahead.
Though difficult to accept, that is the concept of genocide.
Crack was a genocidal effort, a genocidal conspiracy put together by the government while they were flying in drugs into this country. See, we know about this right now, and we're kind of cavalier and nonchalant. But when Freeway Rick was running around getting his code from the CIA, and nobody believed him, and when you talk about Iran-Contra and all that stuff, all of that is associated, and as a result of all of that stuff, disproportionate amount of us wound up locked up for 15 to 20 years because of legislation. Racist legislation. Racism has laws, legal mechanisms. Prejudice is different from racism. Go ahead, sir.
While the conspiracy theories were initially dismissed as far-fetched, if not downright loony,
Come on.
the word on the street turned out to be right, at least to a point. The CIA,
Come on.
admitted in 1998
Stop. The CIA admitted in 1998 what?
that guerrilla armies it actively supported in Nicaragua were smuggling illegal drugs into the United States. Drugs that were making their way onto the streets of inner-city black neighborhoods in the form of crack cocaine.
Are y'all hearing this?
Yeah.
Hidden prison houses? Do you understand the machinations that's involved that constitutes us being hidden prison houses? We talking South America. We talking government revolution. We talking paramilitary groups. We talking airplanes bringing in cocaine and guns, dropping it in our neighborhoods, and then crack wars and crack whores and crack dealers are all on the TV, and everybody's like, oh, this is a terrible thing, and black people are crazy. We don't got no planes.
Man.
We don't got no planes. Go ahead, man. They ain't hearing me, man.
The CIA also admitted that in the midst of the war on drugs, it blocked law enforcement efforts to investigate illegal drug networks that were helping to fund its covert war in Nicaragua.
Come on, man.
It bears the emphasis that the CIA never admitted, nor has any evidence been revealed to support the claim that it intentionally sought the destruction of the black community by allowing illegal drugs to be smuggled into the United States.
See, that wasn't our intention. Our intention wasn't genocide. Our intention was to win the war in Nicaragua so we could spread democracy. Go ahead, man.
Nonetheless,
Conspiracy
theorists surely must be forgiven for their bold accusations of genocide in light of the devastation wrought by crack cocaine and the drug war, and the odd coincidence that an illegal drug crisis suddenly appeared in the black community after, not before, a drug war had been declared.
Odd coincidence. Go ahead, sir.
In fact, the war on drugs began at a time when illegal drug use was on the decline.
Wait, what did you just say?
In fact, war on drugs began at a time when illegal drug use was on the decline.
Come on, man.
I didn't know that.
No, you're not gonna.
That's all. Don't be fired.
Keep rolling. Okay. See that?
Oh, stop. Well, that's more than 5. Anyway.
Go ahead.
During this same time, During this same time, who put this thing together?
Go ahead, man.
During the same time, forgive us in our folly, during the same time period, however, a war was declared, causing arrests and convictions for drug offenses to skyrocket,
Now we're here. Go ahead.
especially among people of color.
Come on.
The impact of the drug war has been astounding. In less than 30 years, the U.S. penal population exploded from around 300,000 to more than 2 million.
Tell them the numbers again, please. I ain't hear you.
In less than 30 years,
Less than 30 years. Go
the
ahead.
U.S. penal population exploded from around 300,000 to more than 2 million, with drug convictions accounting for the majority of the increase.
Come on, brother.
The United States now has the highest rate of incarceration in the world, dwarfing the rate of nearly every developed country, even surpassing those in highly repressive regimes like Russia, China, and Iran.
We got more people locked up in Russia, China, and Iran. And them is dictatorships, quote unquote. Makes you think, don't it? Go ahead, my brother.
In Germany, 93 people are in prison for every 100,000 adults and children. In the United States, the rate is roughly 8 times that, or 750 per 100,000.
Y'all ain't hearing that. Go ahead.
The racial dimensions of mass incarceration is its most striking feature. No other country in the world imprisons so many of its racial or ethnic minorities. The United States imprisons a larger percentage of its black population,
Of its what population?
population
Hid in prison houses. Go ahead.
than South Africa did at the height of apartheid.
Stop. The United States is locking up more people than South Africa at the height of apartheid. Y'all ain't understanding the implications of that. Hid in prison houses, y'all. Go ahead, man.
In Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, it is estimated that 3 out of 4 young black men,
Wait, how many?
3 out of 4 young black men, and nearly all those in the poorest neighborhoods can expect to serve time in prison.
Well, they shouldn't do crime. They should not be doing those things because they have the same opportunities that I do. They should pick themselves up. Not when you got keys of cocaine getting thrown in your neighborhood and the industrial jobs, that the blue collar jobs have been moved out of the country. I mean, I'm gonna pick myself up when the unemployment rate in my neighborhoods, the places that I'm predominantly there, is 43%. Y'all ain't hearing me. Go ahead, bro.
Similar rates of incarceration can be found in black communities across America.
Come on.
These stark racial disparities cannot be explained by rates of drug crime. Studies show that people of all colors use and sell illegal drugs at remarkably similar rates.
Stop. Everybody smoking, snorting, and doing whatever. All right? Go ahead.
If there are significant differences in the surveys to be found, they frequently suggest that whites, particularly white youth, are more likely to engage in drug crime than people of color. That is not what one would guess. However, when entering our nation's prison and jails, which are overflowing with black and brown drug offenders,
I ain't hearing that. Go ahead.
in some states, black men have been admitted to prison on drug charges at rates 20 to 50 times greater than those of white men.
Stop. Hidden prison houses. Hidden prison houses. Oh, the Bible's not true. It's a fairy tale. It's not real. Why do you believe that? Well, let me tell you about the incarceration rate among black people. Heard what the Bible talks about. Y'all understand how this information is useful. Weaponize this information. Use it to understand what we're up against. We're up against a construct that views us not as humans. It views us as animals. The computers have a bias against us. Understand what we're up against. Go ahead, bro.
And in major cities, racked by the drug war, as many as 80% of young African American men,
How many percent?
80% of young African American men now have criminal records and are thus subject to legalized discrimination.
Legalize what?
Legalized discrimination
Racism has legal mechanisms involved. Go ahead, sir.
for the rest of their lives. These young men are part of a growing undercast, permanently locked up and locked out of mainstream society.
When it says here in prison house, now I'm not justifying people doing crimes. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is there are legal mechanisms designed, per what the Bible is telling us, to make us to hide us in prison houses. All right? Back to the book. 23. Go ahead, bro.
Who among you will give ear to this? Who will hearken and hear the time to come?
That's a good question. Go ahead.
Who gave Jacob for a spoil and Israel to the robbers? Did not the Lord?
Did not the white man.
Did not the
Did
Lord?
not the Arabs.
Did not the Lord?
Did not the Chinese people.
Did not the
The
Lord?
Lord did this. While we point blame at everybody, we need to look in the mirror and point blame at ourselves. Go ahead, man.
He against whom we have sinned.
That's right.
For they would not walk in his ways, neither were they obedient unto his law.
Come on.
Therefore he hath poured upon them the fury of his anger, and the strength of battle, and it hath set him on fire round about. Yet he knew not, and it burned him, yet he laid it not to heart.
That's the psychosis, y'all. We're going way in depth. Here's the bright side. Here's the cure. Here's the cure, at least for our psychological malfunctions. I'm doing a lesson called The Cost of the Curses, and I'm going to show you some other concrete stuff we can do to fight against this construct. But for right now, I'm dealing with the psychological effects. Here's how we start the healing. Deuteronomy 30. We cannot give them, and when I say them, I mean any and everybody. We cannot give them any excuse to impute these stories that they have created and legitimize them. I'm not legitimizing any story, any prejudice story that someone comes up against me with. I'm not going to legitimize it at all. Straight up. I'm going to be intelligent. I'm going to express myself clearly, and I'm going to lay these facts on the table, and I'm going to say, no, don't impute that against me. Here's the cue. Deuteronomy 30, 1 through 7. Deuteronomy 30, 1 through 7. Go ahead, brother.
And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations.
Just in America.
All the nations.
Just in Russia.
All the nations.
Come on.
Whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee, and shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command
Some
thee.
of what he commands.
All that I command thee.
Come on.
This day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart, and with all thy soul.
Stop. First step. Be experts in the curses and the blessings. Be experts in slavery. Experts in chattel slavery. Experts in the legal mechanisms that are against us. Call that to mind everywhere that we are. First step. Second step. Start following his law, statutes, and judgments to the T, to the best of our ability. No excuses. Stop making excuses. Oh, I tripped because I just... No. No excuses. Go hard. Then, once we do it, our kids do it, our nation does it, then what?
That then, verse 3, that then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity.
Keep you a slave.
Turn thy captivity,
Come on.
and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee.
Come on.
If any of thine be driven out unto the outermost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee.
That's the only time the Lord's going to come back. When we meet this requirement. This is a requirement. This will start the cure. Go ahead, sir.
5. And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it. And he will do thee good, and multiply thee above thy fathers.
Come on.
And the Lord thy God will circumcise thine heart, and the heart of thy seed, to love the Lord thy God with all thine heart.
Some of it.
All thine heart.
Part of it.
All thine
I
heart.
love God, but I still like pork.
All thine heart.
Come on.
With all thy soul, that thou mayest live.
Come on.
And the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee.
Read 7 again.
And the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies, and on them that hated thee, which persecuted thee.
The curses are going to get slapped on the people that hated us and persecuted us. You have to understand, we're the caretakers of the world. That was our job. So when it flips, we're going to take care of the world. We're going to take care of the world right. But what I'm telling you is, right now, ain't no revolution in the streets and setting with a machine gun and all that foolishness that all these cats in the conscious community is talking about, that ain't what we're going to do. We need to follow our God. Let's go to Psalms 83 real quick. We outnumbered. If you think you're going to have a violent uprising and all this other foolishness, they'll fly a drone on you. They'll come through with a tank. And don't nobody own no tanks. I was in the riot. I saw firsthand how it went down. It was cracking until them tanks rolled through. Then it was go on. I'm for real. I think I'm playing. I was right out there tripping like everybody else till them tanks rolled through. Then it was like, well, what if our part? Here's my point. The Lord is going to fight the battle for us. We just got to do our part. All right? And I'm going to show you what the Lord is going to do. Psalm 83. We're going 13 through 17. I'm going to show you how the Lord is going to deal with it. Whoever wants to do a violent uprising, yeah, you'll be at that funeral. I guarantee you. Because Gentiles don't play. They'll put Project Maven on you. Understand. Psalm 83, we're going 13 through 17. A violent uprising. And please. You saw what they did in that tournament. They turned them into wheel oil. They turned them into grease for a cart. They cut them into pieces. They made fashionable items out of him. Nat Turner. They killed Nat Turner, and they took parts of his body and turned it into usable items. Yes, grease. Grease for wagon wheels. They made grease out of part of him. That's what happens when you want to have a violent uprising. I'm going to let the Lord fight my battle. Psalm 83. I ain't telling you to be a punk. That ain't what I'm saying. I ain't telling you to put on no white gloves and mask it against a boss. I ain't saying that. What I'm saying is use this and use this. Psalm 83. Watch how the Lord fight his battles for his children. Psalm 83, 13 through 17. Go ahead, bro.
Oh my God, make them like a wheel, as the stubble before the wind, as the fire burneth the wood, and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire.
Come on.
So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm.
Come on.
Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name, O Lord.
Stop. You see why he's doing this? He's not doing this to destroy them and totally hate them and all that. He's doing this so they can seek his name. Remember, we're supposed to tell everybody how to follow God. That's our job, primarily. And secondly, we're supposed to be the caretakers of the world. God is going to avenge us. But he's going to avenge us to knock some sense into them so they will follow him. Y'all understand that concept? Go ahead, bro.
17.
Come on.
Let them be confounded and troubled forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish.
Back to Deuteronomy 30. This is the cure. Tell everybody about the curses. Start following the law. Us and our children. And then, once we hit them in the pocket so hard, once we stop dealing with all this pagonomics, yeah, I said pagonomics, they're going to get at us. And they're going to be mad at us. And then that's when the Lord is going to come. Because it has to get like Egypt before he returns. We have to go through incredible suffering for him to come and grab us. Like Egypt. Deuteronomy 30. This is not for the faint of heart, y'all. This ain't for the faint of heart. Deuteronomy 30. We're going 8 to 10. Once we do all these things, go ahead, sir.
And thou shalt return and obey the voice of the Lord, and do all his commandments. All his commandments.
This is stuff I like.
All his commandments.
Come on.
Which I command thee this day. And the Lord thy God will make thee plenteous in every work of thine hand, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy land for good. For the Lord will again rejoice over thee for good, and as he rejoiced over thy fathers. If thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which are written in this book of the law, and if thou turn unto the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thy soul.
We need an overall change of mind regarding God's laws, y'all. And it's necessary to move forward as a people. Until we do that, ain't nothing going to happen. That's number one. We got to change how we perceive ourselves and how we respond to each other. We need to respect each other first and respect the other nations that respect us. All right? And we cannot assist, we can't perpetuate, we can't help perpetuate this foolishness that they created. I am not a coon, I am not a a porch monkey. I am not a rapist. I am not a robber. I am not a killer. I am not a madman. I am not. Let's go to Nehemiah 9. Let's go to Nehemiah 9. Let me show you something. Y'all with me on that? This is how we fix our mind, by understanding our condition and understanding our parts. I'm not letting nobody talk crazy about my people. I want to know, do you really care? I can have a conversation with a Gentile that cares. One that understands our plight, I don't have a problem having a conversation with them. But if it's somebody who is a racist, I'm not even going to let them get out the gate with that. I'm going to nullify them with facts, immutable facts. Nehemiah 9. We're going 32 through 38. Nehemiah 9. We're going 32 through 38. Go ahead, brother.
Now therefore our God, the great, the mighty, and the terrible God, who keepeth covenant and mercy, let not all the trouble seem little before thee that hath come upon us, on our kings, on our princes, and on our priests, and on our prophets, and on our fathers, and on all thy people, since the time of the kings of Assyria unto this day.
Come on.
Howbeit thou art just in all that is brought upon us, for thou hast done right, but we have done wicked.
Read 33 again, they ain't hearing you, bro.
Howbeit thou art just in all that is brought upon us, for thou hast done right, but we have done wicked.
You understand humility? We got to have humility. The white man and this and that, and the Chinese man and that. No. What did we do? We have to have humility and understand our part in this. We play the majority part in this. They're just a tool and a mechanism. That's all it is. Go ahead, brother.
34.
Come on.
Neither have our kings, our princes, our priests, nor our fathers kept thy law, nor hearkened unto thy commandments and thy testimonies, wherewith thou didst testify against them.
Come on.
For they have not served thee in their kingdom, and in thy great goodness that thou gavest them, and in the large and flat land, and in the large and fat land.
And we was living fat. When we was up in Jerusalem, we was living fat. You know some brothers wrote this. Living fat. Right? And a large, man, you live this large and fat. Man, come on, dog. Go ahead, brother. Let them know.
And in the large and fat land which thou gavest before them, neither turn they from their wicked works.
Come on.
Behold, we are servants this day, and for the land that thou gavest unto our fathers did to eat the fruit thereof, and the good thereof, behold, we are servants in it.
Come on.
And it yieldeth much increase unto the kings whom thou hast set over us because of our sins. Also, they have dominion over our bodies and over our cattle at their pleasure, and we are in great distress.
Stop. The psychosis. Great distress. We are in great distress because of what we did. The Bible says we're going to have a psychosis. Does great distress not sound like a mental problem? Y'all with me on that? Go ahead, bro.
38.
Come on.
And because of all this, we make our sure covenant and write it, and our princes, Levites, and priests sealed unto it.
This is what we got to do. We got to renew the covenant with the Most High God, the covenant that we made at Horeb. We got to renew that covenant. And the first step forward is keeping the Sabbath. That's the first step. The first step is the Sabbath. Let's go to Exodus 20. We got to keep the Sabbath correctly. And that means on the Sabbath, there's no buying and selling. There's no kindling of fire. There's no arguing. Why we bringing strife? Why we arguing? Why we tripping? Huh? We ain't supposed to be doing it. That's not keeping the Sabbath properly. Sabbath disclaimer, y'all. No buying and selling. No drinking on the Sabbath. Weekly Sabbath. Feast day, cool. Weekly Sabbath, no. You're transgressing the Sabbath. This is the first step. If we do this, I guarantee you the murder rate in Chicago will drop by 95% if we just kept the Sabbath. I'll go on record saying that. Exodus 20, 8 to 11. Go ahead, bro.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it.
If the Lord made the Sabbath day holy, our conversation should be as holy as possible. We shouldn't be tripping. That's a part of it. Our actions is a part of it. It's a majority of it. Let's go to Nehemiah 13. Let me show you how we're supposed to be dealing with the Sabbath, y'all. The Sabbath is for real. It's serious. The Sabbath is so serious. It's more serious than the fringes and the so-called name and the so-called this, that, and third. The Sabbath is so for real. For real, for real. Nehemiah 13, we're going 15 through 22. We can't play with the Sabbath, y'all. This is the one thing that keeps us in line and in check. If it wasn't for the Sabbath, I'd probably be laundering money for a cartel or something crazy like that. Something stupid like that. Because there would be nothing to hold me back. I can't do it, man. I love what the Lord has for us. Nehemiah 13, 15 through 22. Go ahead, bro.
In those days saw I in Judah some treading wine presses on the Sabbath, and bringing in sheaves, and lading asses, as also wine, grapes, and figs, and all manner of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I testified against them in the day wherein they sold victuals.
So you're not supposed to buy or sell on the Sabbath. Don't leave here and go get you some church chicken, okay? That ain't what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to keep it holy. Go ahead, bro.
16. There dwelt men of Tyre also therein, which brought fish, and all manner of ware, and sold on the Sabbath unto the children of Judah and in Jerusalem.
Come on.
Then I contended with the nobles of Judah, and said unto them, What evil thing is this that ye do, and profane the Sabbath day?
Profane means disgrace. Break. Go ahead.
Did not your fathers thus, and did not our God bring all this evil upon us and upon this city? Yet ye bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath.
If you arguing with your wife, your baby mama, your husband, and whatnot, is that the right mindset to have on the Sabbath? No. Is that the right mindset to come to class with? No. I'm telling y'all, come on, y'all. We got to really do this right. If we don't do it right, we may as well go ahead and get them streets and get it in. Go ahead, bro.
19.
Come on.
And it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath.
So we're talking about sundown is at, the Sabbath is at sundown. Don't argue with me. Argue with Nehemiah. Go ahead, bro.
I commanded that the gates should be shut, and charged that they should not be opened until after the Sabbath. And some of my servants set I at the gate, that there should no burden be brought in on the Sabbath day.
Come on.
So the merchants and sellers of all kind of ware lodged without Jerusalem once or twice.
Come on.
Then I testified against them, and said unto them, Why lodge ye about the wall? If ye do so again, I will lay hands on you.
Stop. Doesn't that sound like he is trying to be nice to them? Is he trying to give them a pumpkin head? He's trying to give them SOS, right? Serve on sight, right? Now, y'all got to remember, the Levites, after the golden calf, the Levites and Moses killed how many people? 3,000 people. So the Levites wasn't no game. Y'all with me on that? So they talk about if these clowns come right here again, when we see them setting up, we're going to storm out there and we're going to beat them up. That's how serious they took it, because they just came out of captivity. So you got to imagine being back in the land, surrounded by people that are you, and you buying your produce, you buying everything from people that look like you. You ain't got to worry about no weirdo narrative. You ain't got to worry about somebody rolling up in there and just beat you across your head. So why mess it up? It's the point. Go ahead, bro.
From that time forth came they no more on the Sabbath.
Look, y'all. We have to keep the Sabbath. That's the first thing. The right way. The right way. Let's go to Deuteronomy keep on.
22.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And I commanded the Levites that they should cleanse themselves, and that they should come and keep the gates to sanctify the Sabbath day. Remember me, O my God, concerning this also, and spare me according to the greatness of thy mercy.
Deuteronomy 7. Again, the Sabbath is the first step. Without that, we got a problem. We need to present ourselves with dignity as a people. The Lord wants us to be a dignified people. We're not buffoons. You women are not lactating profusely without shame. That's not the narrative. You know, I'm not trying to hide in the bush and jump out and grab a white woman. I'm not trying to do that. We got to present ourselves with dignity. I'm not a buffoon. You are not buffoons. I'm going to tell you what the Lord said we are. Go ahead, bro. Verse 6. Start at verse 6. Deuteronomy 7, verse 6. Go ahead, bro.
For thou art a holy people unto
No, he said you're buffoons.
No. For thou art a holy people.
You're pimps.
For thou art a holy
You
people.
are players and hustlers.
A holy people.
Thieves and
A
robbers.
holy people.
You are lazy.
A holy people.
You are an N-word.
A holy people.
Stop. Are we pimps, players, hustlers, whores, and all that other stuff, or are we holy people? Which one? Holy people. So we act that way. We control the narrative. We control the narrative. Okay? I don't care what Bert of Nation told them about me. I am not that fellow. I'm going to slide up to him. I'm going to have a very intelligent conversation about this construct. Go ahead, sir.
For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
I don't think you understand the implications of being a holy people above all people on the earth. I don't think you understand that. But until we act like that, until we think that way, then our actions follow our thoughts, we still going to be pimps, players, hustlers, whores, and fools. Go ahead, man.
7.
Go ahead.
The Lord did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because ye were more in number than any people. For ye were the fewest of all people.
Stop. Fewest of all people. That means we're outnumbered by everybody. Y'all ain't hearing me. We're outnumbered by the Gentiles. Don't get it twisted. We outnumbered by everybody. Go ahead, bro.
8.
Come on.
But because the Lord loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, hath the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt.
Come on.
Now therefore, know therefore, that the Lord thy God, he is God, the faithful God, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him, and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations.
I don't think you understand the implication of 1,000 generations. His love extends past 1,000 generations. Y'all not hearing me. 1,000 generations. More than I can even conceive. And I'm going to tell you something about the Sabbath. If we hadn't kept it, we wouldn't be pimps, players, whores, fools, robbers, and idiots, and lazy, and all these other pejorative terms that they use to dictate to us who we are. If we had stayed, if we had kept the Sabbath, we would have stayed in our homeland. Let's go to Jeremiah 17. They ain't hearing me. That's how important the Sabbath is. Let's see if he talks about the fringes or the names, so-called, and all this other stuff. Let's see what he said will keep us in our lane. We got bigger fish to fry. This is just to handle the mental condition that we're going through. I'm going to deal with the other comprehensive solutions to this in a later lesson, in a three-part lesson. This should have been a two-part lesson, but Jeremiah 17. Let me show you how important the Sabbath is to the Lord. Go ahead, bro.
Thus saith the Lord, take heed to yourselves, and bear no burden on the Sabbath day, nor bring it in by the gates of Jerusalem.
No burden. Go ahead.
Neither carry forth a burden out of your houses on the Sabbath day. Neither do ye any work, but hallow ye the Sabbath day, as I commanded your fathers.
Notice he said burdens or work. Don't have no burdens and don't do no work. Go ahead, bro.
But they obeyed not, neither inclined their ear, but made their neck stiff, that they might not hear, nor receive instruction.
Come on.
And it shall come to pass, if ye diligently hearken unto me, saith the Lord, to bring in no burden through the gates of this city on the Sabbath day, but hallow the Sabbath day, to do no work therein, no
I
work,
gotta do some work.
to do no
I
work,
gotta pay my rent.
to do no work
Come on.
therein. Then shall there enter into the gates of this city kings and princes sitting upon the throne of David, riding in chariots and on horses, they and their princes, the men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and this city shall remain forever.
The city shall remain for how long?
Forever.
He said, if you keep the Sabbath, you're going to have kings and princes riding in Maybachs and Bentleys and Phantoms. It's going to look like when the Queen of England run through England. That's what it's going to look like, except it's going to be us. And I will not put you in slavery if you keep the Sabbath. Go ahead, bro. No, 26. Come on.
And they shall come from the cities of Judah and from the places about Jerusalem.
Stop. They is us. We're going to come to see our kings and princes ride through the streets, high signing, doing it big. You smell me? In a fat land. Y'all hear me? If we just have to keep the Sabbath to start, because that's the start. Go ahead, brother.
And from the places about Jerusalem, and from the land of Benjamin, and from the plain, and from the mountains, and from the south, bringing burnt offerings and sacrifices and meat offerings and incense,
Come on.
and bringing sacrifices of praise.
Stop. Sacrifices of praise. Sacrifices of praise also. Go ahead, sir.
Unto the house of the Lord.
Come on.
But if ye will not hearken unto me to hallow the Sabbath day, and not to bear a burden, even entering in the gates of Jerusalem on the Sabbath day, then I will kindle a fire in the gates thereof, and it shall devour the palaces of Jerusalem, and it shall not be quenched.
He's talking about the Babylonian captivity, the Assyrian captivity, then the Babylonian captivity, and then now this iteration of the captivity. If we keep the law, statutes, and judgments, including the Sabbath, to the best of our ability, the Lord is going to come get us. Because his love extends for 1,000 generations. I don't think y'all believe me. Y'all ain't got to believe me. Believe the Lord. Let's go to Isaiah 35. One more after this. Y'all ain't got to believe me. It doesn't matter if y'all believe me or not. That's why I got the facts, and that's why I got the Bible. I am not to be believed. The book's to be believed. They say, hashtag facts. Is that what they say? I don't know what that is. Y'all know I'm a caveman when it comes to future. Anyway, Isaiah 35. Don't believe me. This is what the Lord got to say to us. Go ahead, bro.
Say to them that are of a fearful heart, be strong, fear not. Behold, your God will come with vengeance, even God with a recompense. He will come and save you.
Just so we know the problems in our nation, they're supernatural, no question. They are supernatural, all right? But they are solvable. They are fixable. Jeremiah 32. The Lord said he's going to come and get us and save us and then bring us back on top and then hurt our enemies that hated us. If we think he's playing, if we think this is a fairy tale, if we think it's not true, then this is what the Lord got to say to everybody. Not me, the Lord. Jeremiah 32, one verse. Go ahead, brother.
Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is there anything too hard for me?
Nope. In conclusion, read your Bibles, pray to the Lord for understanding, and keep yourselves from sin. I hope you got some understanding.